Yeah, for real. It's been a while since I did any kind of stream, so I feel like with these kind of things, when you leave them untouched for such a long time, they kind of like mess themselves up somehow. But still, I am excited to get into the role plays, read them all, so we can figure out what events are going to happen next, and the role plays could potentially inspire and influence what events we end up rolling, because remember, it's all up to interpretation, right? So when I go to roll the events, any context would definitely shape the way these events would turn out. And a basic event, when I think of an event outside of just the role play, these events are going to be, one, expansion of the world. We're using a grid based style, so you're either going north, east, west, or south, and each square you go in any direction, there'll be a new location, and we'll build the map out that way. And then of course there's these, all the little in between places that can exist in between, the different locations, sure, but the main location takes up that spot. But events could be things that lead you to search different areas of the map and explore the map. I like to think of it as people, places, and things. So either it's going to be we'll be discovering a new location, or we'll be discovering a new NPC, or we could be discovering a new thing that can exist in a location or exist with an NPC. But typically an event will involve, and then of course they can get complex depending on what we're rolling, but there would usually be a singular focus that a person could end up discovering and getting a boon, a reward. Any kind of reward is a reward. So even if it's not a tangible object that you discover, the experience that you encounter, that you have, might change you or affect your character in a certain way. And then of course, I'll work with the player to help kind of mold it into something that would apply to their character. Usually that's easy because I don't usually know what it is until I roll it. So we can kind of come up with the context of whatever it is that is being gained and applied to the character that's appropriate for them. Anyway, I want to go through these role plays and just see what's going on in the world, see what's going on in the master plane and between the characters, so we can know what to keep in mind. And then, if time permits, I would like to roll the new events, and get them open for submissions so we can get this next episode out. All right, I hope everybody's enjoying themselves. I, again, am very much looking forward to reading these. Denise says, understandable. I use slobs instead of I've never touched OBS, and that was mainly because a friend of mine told me how much easier slobs was, and slobs has given me no problems up until now. It's weird. OBS, and even with my presets, sometimes it takes a while to get set up. Question: will the recording of this stream be available for review afterwards? Yeah. So because I couldn't get my live stream correct, I'm still recording this, and my face is still, it's still up on the screen, and I'm talking, and I'm going to actually release this. It'll be edited. It won't be all, it won't be as long as this recording, but it'll be edited so that you can refer back to it if you'd like to also hear the role plays. All right, well, take care, man. All right. So I want to start from the top. Here. We'll start in the Tower Settlement. Yeah, the Tower Settlement. Actually, no, we'll start in Tower Settlement. We'll do the Tower Settlement a little bit later, because I think this is kind of detached. Yeah, we'll read it. It's a short one, the Tower Settlement. We'll start there, and then we'll jump into the Inner Settlement. Give me a second. What the heck is going on? Aaron said, I watched your making a video, dude. It was cute seeing. Oh, yeah? Oh, thank you. It was something I was really trying to avoid, but I was like, I'll never get anything done if I never work while he's around. I was like, you know what? I'm just going to embrace it. This is a life you'll have to get used to, I guess, right? Oh, why can I not get my Discord noticed by my streaming program? Let's try this again. Are you having to switch between screens? Right now, I'm trying to get it to show my screen. There we go. It was having a very hard time, but I got it. It'd be nice if I could pop out one of so I can still see the chat. There we go. There we go. Awesome. There we go. I can see the chat. I can look at the... Man, how about that? All right. Now this is showing way too much. All right, we're almost squared away, folks. Thanks for your patience. I'm really bummed out that I can't have my usual setup here. I had it all nice and ready so that I could, do the damn thing. There we go. All right. We're starting with the tower settlement. Oh, no. Where's the chat? There it is. All right. Would it be possible to turn your volume up? Let's see. Yeah. Like, oh, that's pretty loud right there. How about now? How's that? Microphone check 1 2 1 2. What's up, Oiji? How we sounding? Loud and clear? Nazareth the God King. Nazareth the God King. Nazareth arrives back to town square several hours later and is greeted enthusiastically by the people. A wise older man steps forward with 4 others behind him and bow. I am Nassim, my lord. I served as this settlement's garrison commander for over 50 years until my age forced me into retirement. I know this settlement and its people like the back of my hand, and I gained their respect throughout my long years of service. After your actions and words saved many of my brethren and rallied us against the threat of the artists and the terror beasts, you lit a fire in me that this old man hasn't felt since his youth. At your request, I've organized a council, and we are meeting the towers. We are meeting at the towers. Please follow us there, and I can explain more. Oiji says, not on mine. Is it low? I need to know if it's a global thing. Am I on? Talking to Oiji. Nazareth nods and acknowledges the wise man as he and his compatriots lead him through the city towards the tower. As they walk, people are seen helping with relief efforts as commanded by Nazareth earlier. Many citizens stop and greet Nassim while simultaneously bowing in respect towards the God King. Touring through the settlement, the old man points out different buildings and locations and their roles and significances, helping Nazareth to understand the lay of the land better and its people. When they arrive at the top of the tower, Nazareth finds himself in the meeting chambers of the garrison court. Nazareth sits at the head of the table as food and wine are served to him by humble-looking women. Nassim stands at the other end, whispering orders to the service women as they nod and comply, bowing to Nazareth on exit. At your request, as you've seen in the town that relief efforts are underway. People are clearing debris and setting up small makeshift healing tents in the town center. The most popular is the one run by a beautiful and kind woman by the name of Eden. She helped many, but is running low on supplies. After the lynching of the lead acolyte earlier, we raided one of their safe houses and acquired surplus of herbs and salves used in their rituals. Nazareth sits impressed by this old man and how much he's gotten done with little direction in such a small amount of time. Nazareth was going hard. I don't know if anyone was it done in the dark. I don't. There's a lot of characters. I don't know if they would allow a public lynching. Right? That probably didn't happen. Whoever this Nazim is about to get a promotion because he be exaggerating and shit. It happened publicly on the server, at least. Nazareth sits impressed by this old man and how much he's gotten done with little direction in such a small amount of time. It's because he's exaggerating. He's lying. You have already proven valuable, Nassim. Order the maids to deliver these supplies to Eden and her camp at once. All right. Nazareth stands up abruptly with purpose, with fist pressed firmly in the table. Now, to other matters that require my direct attention. The artist is being set to stand trial for his crimes. With his potential sway over politics and his multiple supporters still roaming within the settlement, it is very possible he will go free. He's being held by a righteous fool in chains, and I will correct him soon. I think he's talking about Samuel Andrews. I want you to locate a warrior who smells like pastries, Darren Longswift, and summon him to me. We must speak. So I know Nazareth's character is very big and like brutish, right? But he's also supposed to be kind of funny, like kind of like a knucklehead. And I know initially there was a lot of uproar around this because there was a lot going on, and I think we course corrected that and kind of put things in perspective since then. That we want to move more, we want to move away from controlling NPCs, because this is really a character focused game. If in fact, I honestly, I don't really envision NPCs at all. I want there to be, I wanted to get to a point where everyone is using themselves, and there's enough people where we don't need NPCs. But the thing is, Nazareth's one of his abilities involves NPCs, so that's where kind of the confusion, got. Because it was part of one of his abilities. He thought that he felt that he would start building an army, and that is something that can be done and will be done. It's just how it was conveyed. It looked like he already had an army when really it was more of like trying to show that this is something that was starting to come into fruition. And but we, it's all good. It's we can have a couple NPCs here and there. The only thing here that I see, it's all cosmetic, right? All of the role playing between episodes is cosmetic and not really plot forwarding. Me going and reviewing these is more plot forwarding than what's actually happening, because that's when I get to decide on where will we push the plot and which direction we'll go with the plot based off of where everybody kind of wants to go with their characters. But yeah, too soon. Yeah, a lot was going on, because in my perception, it's still like everything just happened, right? And yeah, a garrison could have already existed, and these people could have already existed, and they could be very influenced and very inspired by Nazareth, but to the extent of this to this possibly. But again, it's just role play. So in my perspective, I see it as Nazareth has a lot of respect from people because of what he has done recently, and in this moment of chaos, people are starting to look at him as some sort of figurehead. And maybe it's because they're still kind of coming out of, they're still under the effects of his presence. I mean, his abilities are very, people would act like this just because of just all his abilities kind of working together at once. So yeah. I mean, and also, this also doesn't have to happen. I kind of welcome everybody to kind of, take on things, but also, use this as an opportunity to maybe, go against it. And I haven't read past any of this. I read some, but not past any of this. I'm hoping that there is a person that like kind of like slows this down and says, yeah, maybe not a great idea. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. In terms of like magnitude and the effect, take it with a grain of salt. You know what I mean? These are just, and I say that going forward for all the role play that I encounter. And I know where nothing can happen outside of the settlement that changes and impacts, has a great impact. You know what I mean? And it's all just, but there also is freedom for everybody. And, we'll make sure that doesn't get too out of hand. But I mean, how much can you really accomplish in this short period of time? Darren says, I'm fine with him amassing an army. In fact, that sounds awesome. It's probably better to interact with the other players instead of going solo. Yeah, for sure. And that's the point of the game too. And that's why I didn't really want there to be NPCs. NPCs would get a very little focus unless, they're an NPC that is a part of the game, whether it be an enemy or, somebody that is giving you a quest or, or whatever. And we'll hand it out on a case by case basis, because again, some people's actions incorporate, the grand public and influence and stuff like that. But also I want on the same side, I want those things to apply to the players in the game. You know what I mean? If you're somebody who has all these influence powers, that can be done in the game. All because other player characters are player characters, it doesn't mean that your influence can affect them they'll have to role play to that if the dice rolls, are in your favor. And because of that, and because of the dice rolls being a thing, and we all have to follow the dice rolls, there is really no meta gaming. You know what I mean? Everybody will easily be able to see the consequences of if somebody is influenced by someone and they're not acting like they're influenced. That's a violation, right? So we'll slowly move farther away from the NPCs, and players will start focusing on themselves and look at other people as individuals that are being controlled by other players. So yeah, I remember when this first post came up, it caused quite a stir, but no worries. Hopefully everything is back on track now. That was on the 22nd. So before I go into Eden's submission, because this is on the 23rd, I know there's, or maybe I should, I'm just going to read through all of this since this is the last that happened in here. Eden, transformed by magic into the guise of an old woman, Eden made her way to the front of the tower that seemed to house the town council. Okay, so she's approaching Nazareth's supposed council, right? Approaching a man stationed in front of the tower, she explained that she had been requested by a gentleman to deliver a note to the council. Handing over the message for it to be conveyed to the relevant authorities, she then expressed her gratitude to the guard before making her departure. The anonymous note. Eden is really sneaky. The anonymous note. To the esteemed authorities, esteemed authorities of the town. In the wake of recent calamities, I wrote to you as a concerned citizen, urging immediate action to ensure the survival and well-being of this community. Number 1, inspection of granaries and warehouses. It is imperative to conduct a thorough inspection of all the granaries and warehouses to assess our current food supplies. The assessment should determine the quantity and quality of the resources available, ensuring they have not been compromised in recent attacks. We need at least 40,000 pounds of grain per week, plus equal amounts of foodstuffs. Let me write that down, because what she's bringing up here is the possibility of there being a food shortage, right? Food, grain, food, food resource. Okay. Number 2, requisition of merchants' food supplies. Considering the potential scarcity of resources, it is advisable to requisition the food supplies from local merchants. This action could be undertaken with fairness, offering the merchants a fixed, reasonable compensation for their goods. Such a measure will help stabilize the food distribution among all residents. Number 3, establishment of daily bread contribution. Organize a systematic distribution of bread and other essential food items to the population on a daily basis. This initiative will alleviate immediate hunger concerns and prevent any potential unrest due to the food shortages. Look, is the God King going to be willing and able to shoulder these responsibilities? Acknowledgement of Allies Warband. Ooh, I recommend formally recognizing and thanking Allies Warband for their efforts and contributions. Their role in our town's defense and recovery is invaluable. Did I miss something? And maintaining a positive relationship with them is crucial for a collective security. Is Eden compromised? This was on the 23rd. Maybe there was something that happened on the 22nd. Denise says, what time of year did this disaster happen? Are we starting down the barrel of the end of harvest, or are we in the middle of summer? I'm missing a bunch of stuff, Oiji says. Okay, because that shit is throwing me for a loop. I figured I missed something. What time of year did this disaster happen? I don't know. But are we staring down the barrel of the end of harvest, or are we in the middle of summer? Yeah, I don't know. I couldn't tell you. I haven't had to roll anything that addressed seasons, let alone time. I would like to think that the entire world is different now and not what it was. Not that it ever was Earth to begin with, but it's always been the master plane, and we'll make it up as we go. For example, if I roll an event that involves something to do with needing to prepare for a cold winter that's coming, or some type of situation that's coming that requires us to prepare and farm and stuff, that would be the opportunity to start rolling and building, world building, like the events and seasons and stuff. I can't wait till we encounter the fundamentals of the world. You know, that's the best stuff. So I'm looking forward to when something like that comes up, and definitely looking for any reason to go down that path. I'm missing a bunch. The bulk of RP happened in the field hospital. Okay. All right, let me read this. Furthermore, I'm gonna finish reading this and then I'm gonna jump into the inner settlement. Furthermore, it is crucial to assess the condition of the town's water supply. If the water source has been compromised, immediate steps should be taken to identify. Okay, is the water compromised? Is the water compromised? If that's not answered, I might have to ask the fake question. That might have to be, an event, Nazareth, the God King, then comes in and says, this is when he was still role-playing as an NPC. A servant arrives into the garrison chambers and delivers a note to Nazareth. He opens it and reads. He reads intensely. He reads even more intensely. Then falls asleep face down on the table from the lack of concentration and boredom. How is this person? He wakes up suddenly to an old maid cleaning the room. He calls her over to read it for him. And when she finishes, he thinks to himself that logistics have never been a strong suit of his. And this letter seems to be finally specific. So finding who wrote it and getting them to aid in the relief efforts would be another step towards the end goal. He gets up and heads town to find this person. Luigi says, yeah, we treated the channels as different areas of the settlement. Okay. Then he says on November 23rd in the out of character general chat, there was some in-real discussion about how this presented policy would affect the settlement. Okay. I'm hoping that policy didn't fall on deaf ears and that kind of like trickled into like some topics of roleplay. Because these are the things I had in mind. Things that you want to get established when you have any kind of community working together so that they don't start working against each other. And if they do start working against each other, where are the allies? Yeah, Darren says, yeah, from what I could tell after that, it hasn't been an issue. Okay. All right. I'm going into the inner settlement, starting from the top. So we had this Eden and Will conversation in the video that was featured. I stopped right here where Ovaz entered in the conversation. All right. So we are with Denise says the trickle down didn't happen yet since the character that brought it up in the O's chat wasn't interacting with Eden on the general conversation. Right. Which is a good call. I'm glad people are sticking to, the keeping the role play and not metagaming and stuff like that. That's awesome. I'm sure it'll come up eventually, or, if it doesn't need to come up, probably won't, but something could happen that could bring these into question. All right, Ovaz. After seeing the civilians safely out of the cellars, Ovaz will take a moment to say his thanks to Lantier for the blessing of safety and for the eternal hope held within the coming dawn. He decides to get a better view of the scene and summons the ray disc, a circular flat pane of hardened light that appears as golden glass. He steps onto the platform and flies slowly upwards, surveying the destruction wrought both within and without by the combined havoc of the artist's dark ritual and the bloody battle fought outside. Seeing such darkness and pain made manifest, he weeps for the spirit of the land and the hearts of the people now living under the artist's curse. From above, he notes the makeshift field hospital near the sunken ruins of the tavern. Feeling called to service, Ovaz descends to the ground and walks over to offer his aid to those in crisis. Okay, that's Ovaz's bag, right? That's what he's really good with. He's gonna be a boon. Father Edmund. At the gates stood Father Edmund, assessing what's left inside the settlement, trying to figure why the voices called him right at this doomed place. Since his calling, Father Edmund decided to blindly, or he would say faithfully, follow their guidance, and they always seem to know it right. I'm definitely needed here, he mutters. But how? That's when he felt a breeze in his face. A smile played around the corner of his mouth. He just shut his eyes and whispered, guide me. Ooh, Father Edmund, guide me. Suddenly, voices that only he could hear started whispering back. Holy liberty, leadership, Trinity. A faint golden mist appears in front of him, intertwining with the silver one, following ahead among the people. Meanwhile, a third purple one surrounds himself. It reminded him of how he got in this city. He didn't mean to come this side. He didn't mean to come this side until a dark whirlwind formed in front of him, pointing towards the far tower. He didn't need a whisper. He didn't need a whisper this time to understand a heavy, dark unbalance was about to surround this settlement. He starts following the mists until they surrounded two figures, and two winds whisper at the same time. Kalea, Ovaz. He approaches Ovaz and interrupts his services. So you are Ovaz. I feel we'll be around for a long time. We have urgent matters to discuss, but there's one person missing. Meanwhile, prior to that, approaching Eden and Will, Ovaz will place his arms flat out in front of him, a symbol of the horizon, and fling his arms up and out in the symbol of the waking sun. In darkest night, Lantier's light may always be found shining in the hearts of the righteous and those who serve. Blessings upon the both of you. You, sir, maker of marks, many thanks are due to you, for your symbols allowed many of us to escape the cellars before the collapse. And my lady. Ovaz stops mid-sentence as Father Edmund, a man with whom he has no prior relation, appears at his side, speaking his name and declaring that they must speak together. I like that. This is what I like how he put what he was saying before he got interrupted. Before we stop there, I think we got some. Ouija says, I'm using the Game Master Emulator 2nd edition on my own to write up responses, etc. Wait, so your responses are randomized, dog? Yo, that's tight. Oh, everybody should do that. No, but that's cool. I'm sure you tweak it here and there. That's fun. You randomize your responses. You use Mythic for your response. Oh. Then he says, salute the sun. A question. Ouija says, a question. When you get to my interaction with Eli and Nas. Okay, let me know. Bold move, Cotton. Oh, I could hear Darren Longswift saying that. I heard his voice. Hopefully when I get to your voice or your character's voice, because I'm not liking Eli's voice. I'm gonna have to find a different one. And I might do away with the voices. I don't know. There's not enough of them yet. I just thought it would be something to do, something cool to do. Yeah, but there's not that many voices. I could see, maybe there are, but there's a lot of bad ones. And they can be iffy sometimes. Like the Ally one, I swear, like the first few lines she had sounded great. And then like the quality just, I don't know. Some of them are a little too monotone. Then he says, Ally sounds a bit like a mix between Siri and Google Maps. Koki is something to check out in conjunction with 11 Labs. Turn left here or die. Far deeper voice manipulation. Will Toth, I feel like the voices are still a bit robotic. They lack inflection and really struggle when the punctuation isn't perfect or forced. Yeah. So to what Will had just said, which that's why I'm thinking of moving away from the voices for now. Just like, sometimes the AI it's a little too early for the AI. If you recall, when I first started doing this, I played with what was it called? I forget. I'm drawing a blank now, but it was AI where you could have conversations with them. And they would just miss the mark sometimes, more often than not. And I was like, I'll have to revisit this. The narrator's voice, yeah, we might have to just go back to the narrator's voice for everything. I mean, I need consistency. Yeah, Oigi in-world AI, and even now they've improved, but it's not something I can really rely on when I have a consistent narrator. Who even that narrator messes up sometimes. Oh man, I cloned my voice. I actually used a clone of my voice for the beginning of that of that role replay video that we released today. That was an AI voice, and you know it's hit or miss sometimes. Sometimes depending on what I'm saying, it sounds good, but sometimes you can tell it's a robot. So yeah, his turnaround when the flyer liar imitated Eli's voice was awesome. Word, yeah, like I love that particular voice. It's gonna be a while before I ever change it. It's perfect, and it's not a voice you hear a lot. Yeah, that's probably the play to just use narrator's voice so people can insert their own in their heads. Yeah, because I do not want to ruin your characters with a whack ass Google Maps voice. Like, I regret actually using that now. Real rap. So we'll have to do Ally some justice. First off, I need to know how to pronounce the damn name. I feel like I butchered that name. Did you hear the narrator? He was butchering her voice, man. I swear, in one of the lines, he called her Akla. I was like, yo, what? Where did that come from? He made it sound like it was. He said Akla. I was like, oh man, combatant. Yeah, there's a couple in there when he was like, when he was talking about Eden, whether she was wrapping bandages or wrapping the hands of a nobleman, the hands of a nobleman. Ally, like ally. Okay. Audio editing will take an immense amount of time to warn you. Yeah, so going in and making sure that each of those lines, and apparently I still missed one, right? But making sure each of the lines were spoken by a certain person, that was a lot of time as well. And that's the opposite of what I wanted, because I wanted something to be in between the episodes. So if it takes a lot of time to do that, yeah. So I think you kind of helped me decide. I'll probably I'll probably go back to the narrator and leave the voices be. All right, let's get back. So Father Edmund interrupts Ovas, and he turns to Father Edmund and says, yes, I am Ovas, Luminaris of Lantier. That's me. I beg your pardon, sir, as it seems you have me at a disadvantage. Lantier's light sees all, but mine eyes behold only a fraction. Please tell me, who are you? And who is this person you speak of? Ovas goes hard. Father Edmund replies, fear not, child. I love this meeting of these two characters. Fear not, child. We must find Kalea. Oh, don't get all the robed people together. Don't get all the robes together. We must find Kalea. Without saying his name, Father Edmund just turns his back and starts walking towards Sister Kalea's way. As the stranger turns and walks away without answering his question, Ovas's forehead furrows an amused confusion, an almost lighthearted feeling in contrast to the darker and stranger horrors of the night's events. He calls out Lantier's light upon you, friend. May we speak again when the time is right. Turning back to Will and Eden, he lets out a quiet and gruff, Well, normally that might be the strangest thing to happen to me all day, but these are not normal times. By chance, do either of you know that man? It is not unusual for a person to recognize my station, but this man knew my name, though he is unknown to me. And then that goes down the thread of the makeshift field hospital. We might have to go down. Should I go down that thread, or should I continue on? Because there's some recent ones that come right after that. That's a 78 message thread. Should I go down that one or circle back around? Let me see. Thread. Okay. Nothing ventured, nothing gained. Let's go. The makeshift field hospital. Ooh. Nazareth. Wait, no, the thread's over here. Okay, here we go. What are these? Okay, all right. Whew. Okay, we have Willem Toth, out of character, just making a thread so we can all keep track of these messages. Thank you, Willem. You know, when I first found out that threads was a thing, I was like, damn, that's perfect. It's perfect. I still don't know. There's so much still about Discord that I don't know. Somebody has mentioned me. That's old. But I got a message. All right, here we go. Yeah, man, the threads, definitely a lifesaver for sure. Okay, Will's attention turned toward the man who had helped him look over the civilians. They hurried away from danger. There were others involved as well, but this man he recognized. You can utilize threads for submissions. Would they be hidden from other people though? No, we'll definitely are going to be having like smaller events, and we can utilize all kinds of things. All right, there were others involved as well, but this man he recognized as they'd spent some short time together with the one when the one with the chain had gone after the artist. He might have replied to the odd greeting, even pointed out that he was a little more than just a man passing through, who happened to enjoy a good meal. It was the interruption from a figure he did not recognize that gave the vagabond pause. He turned back toward Eden. See? Able bodies. I'm sure this one will help. He guided many out of the tavern when the miasma came. His tone was quiet, trying to keep from interrupting the other two as they spoke. His attention split between the two. If you're looking for someone missing, I can seek them among the dead. It wasn't the best outcome, but in his many years, Will had learned that closure was sometimes better than the unknown. Strange things happening by the moment, Ovaz. Strange things happening by the moment. Ovaz, was it? The tattooed man shook his head with a small chuckle. I'm Will. By the way, I didn't get the opportunity earlier in the shuffle. His smile brightened. Perhaps he is a prophet, or simply a madman. Either way, I hope he finds whoever he is looking for. It's never fun to be missing someone. Then he says, that didn't sound ominous at all. Ovaz replies, indeed, silently thinking to himself of the missing name of the new sun, heir to the solar throne of Lantier. Wait, indeed, silently thinking to himself the missing name of this new sun, heir to them. It is a hard time for many, but we must not lose faith. Even as he fades, Lantier still watches over us. Often the ones we seek are not truly lost, but rather hidden in service of a greater purpose. For even the light of the sun must be shrouded for the fullness of rain to bless the earth. Ovaz takes a moment to take in the sight of Will's body, covered in imagery that seemed to take on a life of its own in the shifting of the light and shadow across the cursed sky above. Casting a dull golden light from his eyes, Ovaz scans over the tattoos, and as he does so, their images project out and around Will, telling a tale too long for the life of one man. My, Will, it seems you are a man of hidden depths. It has been some time since I met one who knows the ways of mortis speech. Yes, I am Ovaz, High Luminaris, and chosen of Lantier the Radiant. I traveled this land in search of the name of the new sun, for it is not yet sung in the bright halls. It seems that my task is here for the moment. I am no doctor, but I carry the blessing of the Bright One's embrace. It is my sacred duty to call upon this boon to invoke a sanctuary for the minds and souls of the weary. Meanwhile, Eden casts a gracious glance at the newcomers. Or maybe not meanwhile, I think she's here. Eden casts a gracious glance at the newcomers. Her smile gentle yet tinged with an understated fatigue she strove to conceal. Observing the diverse and remarkable individuals gathered in the settlement, she felt a sense of fortunate happenstance. She didn't see herself as a hero. Rather, she was just the type who would remain behind the scenes, offering support through her knowledge, wisdom, and healing abilities. As Willem introduced the man, she listened attentively. Though I'm familiar with you, I extend my gratitude for your aid to the civilians in these dire times. I must admit, such bravery eludes me. Eden's thoughts drifted to the recent encounter with Nazareth, where she narrowly escaped harm. In her dragon form, she might have made a significant impact, yet she harbored a deep-seated aversion to violence and warfare. Above all, she harbored a primal fear of death. Despite her formidable alternate form, engaging in battle would make her a conspicuous target. She knew that eventually she would have to confront her fears, but today was not that day. Her intention in transforming into a dragon was not to engage in conflict or inflict harm. After Willem's introduction, Eden offered a polite curtsy to the newcomer. I am Eden, a modest practitioner of healing arts. Her expression shifted to one of mild astonishment as she observed Ovaz examining Willem with a luminous golden gaze. The last thing she desired was to attract undue attention or scrutiny, uncertain of what Ovaz might discern from such an examination. Given that her human guise was her actual form, not a disguise, she remained wary. Her past experiences of being labeled a witch and facing exile lingered in her memory. Feeling the need to withdraw, Eden excused herself with a courteous demeanor. I must seek out those herbs. I shall return shortly. With a polite smile, she quietly made her way out of the makeshift tent, hoping to depart without interruption or further inquiry. Great job. Great job. Denise says, still sneaky. Ovaz bows graciously to Eden. It is an honor to meet you, young healer. Your manners may be modest, but your spirit shines brightly in your care for those people. This is not something that any coward would do, setting up a hospital in the midst of such happenings. As Eden leaves, Ovaz watches her speaking to the masked figure, pointing them aside. Ovaz watches her speak to the masked figure. Masked figure? Who's masked? I guess, yeah, she says something next. Oh, he adds her. I was about to say, how did he know she was coming? I was confused for a second. Yeah, he ended up adding her. As Eden leaves, Ovaz watches her speaking to the masked figure, pointing them aside. Welcome, friend. Please come in. Eden, who you just met, has she been tending to the wounded here? Have you need of aid? All right, Darren. Darren says, be back in a little bit. Asau. Quite the contrary. I was fortunate enough to make it out of there before the thick of it all, more or less. Aso pats a stray strand of her hair back into place, unscathed. I am a little curious regarding the origins of this commotion. I saw a ghastly man who commanded some form of dark magic and an onslaught of mercenaries wailing down on others, but not much else, I'm afraid, she utters, her voice gradually growing softer until she realizes something. Oh, but where are my manners? I am Aso. She extends a hand forward for a handshake. I almost said milkshake. Oiji's peace slowed. Wait, pace? Oiji's pace slowed as he neared the hospital, catching a glimpse of a blonde woman as he exited the tent, pointing a few souls inside for treatment. He turned back to the boys. He didn't have much in the way of food or sweets. Every kid loves sweets, but he did have his what's that? Yebbles. The little one was still sniffling quietly. Oiji reached into his pocket and pulled out. Yo, first off, I have to say that the voice for the part where he like screamed, the AI voice for when Oiji screamed at those. That's the tenacity we needed with. A lie. He said, "Stop crying!" And then the narrator had the nerve to come in afterwards and say, but not in a mean way, but just like in a like, come on way. He says, "Stop crying! Stop crying!" Oh man. Oh man. I was like, I can't take that out. Sometimes you just gotta roll with it. The little one was still sniffling quietly. Oiji reached into his pocket and pulled out 3 small pebbles, each etched with a symbol akin to those on his vest and the glyphs on his bands. He tossed them in the air and hissed out a sound. The pebbles stopped suspended in the air, glowing with the undulating pulse of warm blue light. The oldest one's eyes widened and he stepped back a bit. Seeing the young man's apprehension, he kneeled, with the pebbles floating above his hand, spinning slowly. "I'm gonna give you these." He paused for a second, noticing how close in age his son would have been to the boy, and just as quickly shook it from his mind. Damn, did his kid get killed by those mercenaries? that killed that raised the town? I remember Ovaz saying he had sort of some like Punisher vibes going. So, oh no, these two with the holes in them, those are my personal bodyguards, Yakel and Yeb. If you ever find yourself in trouble and you can't find your brother or you can't protect him, I want you to call on them. And this one here, he pointed at the one colored like a dark ruby. This one. This is when you need to get a hold of me. Yakel and Yeb are great, but they are only so tough. Some things it can't protect you from. If you ever lose Yakel or Yeb, or they are unable to protect you, call me. This will get me to you. He smiled as he dazzled them one final time, turning the stones into simple jewelry, 2 chains for their necks, and a simple leather band bracelet form. His flatness having softened, there was something akin to a bittersweet memory as he stepped into the hospital tent, the boys in tow. Oiji Raz says, yeah, before this, I lost my 2 wives and my son. Damn. Was it to the mercenaries? Like when the town was raised? And is Skulker from the same village? Or do y'all like join forces afterwards, like Wolverine and Sabretooth? I have children in need of assistance, he called out, scanning the room to see Ovaz and Aso. Fortune smiles on me this day, he thought to himself. I would think the same thing if I saw Ovaz and saw all the stuff that he was doing. Oh yeah, that's the guy we need. The light. You there. Or you, light bearer. Yeah, he's thinking the same thing. You, light bearer, the one with the light. All that light. I need some of that light. You, light bearer. He ushered the boys over to Ovaz hurriedly. Blessings upon you, Oiji says, killed by the organization Ev once worked for. Wait, y'all are friends now? Will couldn't help but smirk. He'd known Eden all of 15 minutes, and already he could tell that she was overly humble. That wasn't a problem, so much as an amusement to the spirit-touched man. We didn't have much choice, I'm sure. Given the choice between death and freedom, you would choose the second. There is rarely any true freedom in death except for those who lead the most cursed lives. He didn't mean to minify what he and the others had done so much as point out that bravery is often born of circumstances. They made a choice to fight for life, and in that choice they offered others the chance to do the same. Had Willem been in a different location, had the circumstances been different, he might have still jumped into the fray. But could he say the same for any of the others? It was the display of his markings that took Will truly by surprise. He wore his story on his skin, but that didn't often afford many the opportunity to learn it. There were the odd questions over a meal around a campfire, or the curiosity of a bedfellow when moonlight made them easy to see. But each of those warranted little more than a single story from his hundreds of years. And here, Ovaz had conjured far more than that in a moment. Yes, well, deal with death long enough and death takes an interest. That wasn't quite true, but Will had known others like him. Some driven mad, others not long for the world. He was something of an oddity among those with his affliction. Either way, we could use the hands. For now, we just need to make sure people are comfortable as possible while I cook up a stew and Eden gathers more supplies. When she returns, I'm sure she could show us both how to be more helpful. Eden's departure left the 2 men to their work, and Will turned to set a place to cook. A small stack of wood for a campfire was lined with rubble strewn about from the conflict as others walked in and Ovaz greeted them. It wasn't until Will recognized Oiji from the conflict that he turned from his work. The children, injured or missing their parents, understanding their condition was part of the triage. And you're the one who stopped the artist's spell, correct? Can you do anything to silence the dead? Netherworld problems. Oiji, the question struck Oiji in the chest as it dawned on him he never once asked. He kicked himself quietly. In earnest, I know not. I saw children and, well, I couldn't leave them there. He turned to look at the 2 boys with a gentle firmness in his voice. Your names? The oldest sheepishly stuttered out, I'm Dellin, and this is my little brother, Eldra. He nodded and gave Dell a pat on the head. Fighting back tears, he looked at Will. Friend, take them. I can't. There's a character that's in here, and their name, I guess they didn't change their nickname. Like, who the hell is Toasty Toast? And then it's a picture of Jameson, James Jameson doing the meme laugh. But we'll read it. Slipping in with practiced stealth, she approaches Ovaz, the one she feels most comfort coming from. Excuse me, is there anything I can do to help? I feel awful. These people were hurt and I want to help, she explains, becoming firmer in her words as she finishes. That's meanwhile, Will. All right, back to Will talking to Ouija. All right, not to worry. The large man knelt down, getting as close as he could to eye level with the older of the two children. Dellin, are you hurt? A small head shake was enough of an answer. And what about you, little Eldra? Brave and tough. Did anyone hurt you? Another shake of the head. Well, then I've got some important work for you two. It's a summoning ritual for mothers and fathers that we can all, that we call a stew. And it takes a lot of stirring. Will chuckled, rising back to his normal height. Giving the children something to work on would help distract them as the search of survivors continued. They'll be safe here. We just need to get the word out that those looking for loved ones should come by my tent. A strong hand was placed on each child's back as he brought them to the pot where he was beginning the stew, his attention still on Ouija. Any chance you could fetch a bucket of water? We could use all the help we can get. And it seemed there would be no help settling the spirits of the recently departed, who still wailed in the air around them. Ouija stared up at the top of the tent for a long time. He heard Will as if he were underwater or in a tunnel. He shook his head, and a deep sigh leaving his lungs. He composed himself. Water, and water, I. And to answer your earlier question, final rites of the dead. I haven't known them to stop the dead from haunting the living. I can mend the living to some degree, but first, water. Ouija snapped up a bucket as he began to leave. He stopped for a second. If the boy's parents never come, tell them they have my promise. I will avenge them so they never be restless souls. That is the only silence I've seen the dead accept. And out he pushed into the streets. Ooh, I like that. I like the idea of the restless dead being a distraction for Willem, to the point where it's like worth putting on the list of things to do, or else nobody's gonna have a great dinner because Willem has got a really bad headache. What'd he say? Avenging the dead. What'd he say? Avenging the dead. Ouija says, the thread of El and Del I want answers to. If their parents are alive or not. If they are alive, I still want to be around for the kids. If they are not, I will definitely seek to take them under my wing here and there, especially if there is any magical talent. Then he says, I wonder if during the long battles the dead will interfere with him. That would be interesting. Yeah, it would. I just like the idea of them also interfering with his cooking. But, a way to, a little favor for, that could be it seems major enough, right? Could be debilitating. Yeah, I always imagine that Will's death sense is always there. He just hears them. The more recently they died, the louder they are. Yeah. Are the kids' parents dead? I would say that would be something you could pursue during a submission. If you're curious, maybe that's a question you can ask in one of your submissions, and I would roll for each of them independently if you want me to. Because remember, when the doors open up for submissions, there will be events, but then players will also be able to, they would have to choose an event or choose to do anything else or do something that they want to do that's like more personal for, development and stuff like that. That would be cool if you took them under your wing though. That would be pretty cool. Depending on what the answer is, be curious to see where that goes. But yeah, we'll definitely roll to see if they're dead. Okay. Willem nodded his agreement with the man. Final rites are for the peace of the living. Only time settles spirits, not revenge. A hard truth learned over many years. Let's have hope that their parents are coming and that they'll not need to know such hardship so young. A lie. After sending off a few of her warband to tell Samuel, a lie needs some time away from her horsemen to lick her wounds. She steps out of the way of Oiji as he leaves the field hospital tent, giving him a small sarcastic bow. She enters and regards those inside and sees a pot of stew going. Without a word, she begins to remove pieces of her armor, dropping them beside the place she intends to sit. Eli walks over and inspects the stew, sniffing the air. "Can I find healing here?" she asks the occupants. Willem was still tending to the children, getting them to stir the stew as Eli arrived. He didn't turn to look at her, but rather addressed the two he was working with. "See, it's magic. See, it's magic. Its magic is already working. We've summoned someone to the tent. Keep this up and we're sure to find your parents." Was he lying? Possibly. He couldn't know if the children's parents were alive or dead, only that keeping the pair here and safe and in one place was the most likely way for them to be found, if that was at all possible. He tried to be positive. What good would it do to tell them that their parents likely fell to the miasma or were cut down by mercenaries? For the moment, none. Once Dellen was stirring on his own, enamored with the idea that he'd manage his own magic, the large tattooed man turned around to address the newest entrant to the tent. "Everyone's welcome to come and rest. The stew will help some when it's ready. Otherwise, I can take a look at your injuries. Do a little I know now. Or Eden, should she be back, humble as she is. She's far more healer than I am." He regarded the warrior for a moment before finally asking, "What are your injuries?" "I'll take what I can get. If my injuries are beyond your capabilities, I don't mind waiting for this, Eden," she responds. She shows off several wounds, a gash in her back from the monster's manifestations beyond the gate, a knife wound in her thigh from a mercenary. Scars and burns adorn Eli in the same way that tattoos adorn Will. She sits herself down and rolls her shoulders. It's clear this is a common procedure for her. "What do I call you?" Looking over the wounds. Will was surprised that she wasn't showing more indications of discomfort or pain. He certainly couldn't have been so stoic, and he couldn't have been so stoic in the face of such things. Perhaps that was why he preferred to keep everything at arm's reach. Eden might do a better job of things, but I'm not entirely incapable. He moved to grab a small pinch of herbs, offering it to the woman. "Chew on these. Don't swallow." The masticated plant matter could be applied to a wound to stave off infection and promote healing, but Will wasn't about to spit on her. "Willem, but most just call me Will." He offered his name with a smile. "And yourself?" His gaze shifted to the children and his stew. Everything there seemed to be fine. Eden's return was cause to celebrate as she shared her new cachet of herbs with him. She's walking in right now. "Wonderful. It's more than what we had," because she has brought some herbs. He tried to highlight the positive without drawing attention to the fact that it may not be enough still. "If you don't mind, I've got her chewing on some staunch root for the wound on her back, but I'm sure you would know better how to handle things." So Eden just came in with the herbs. After some time, she made her way back, clutching a small pouch brimming with a modest assortment of herbs. Will doesn't think they might be enough, but she has some. The quantity was limited, but she was determined to utilize them as efficiently as possible. When she stepped back into the tent, her eyes quickly swept across the area, taking stock of the current state of affairs. She noticed Ovaz's presence, which was somewhat daunting. What do you mean by that? Yet she knew she couldn't let that deter her from her duties at the makeshift field hospital. Her strategy was to maintain a low profile, avoiding any unnecessary interaction that might draw his attention. Wait, what? Does she know him? What? Does she see him as like a person who might know what she is? Re-engaging with Willem, she showed him the herb-filled pouch with a slight sense of accomplishment. Then turning her attention to two young children huddled nearby, she approached them with a nurturing and reassuring approach. She offered comforting motherly words, her tone soft and soothing as she checked on their well-being. Eden's gaze then casually swept over a few individuals engaged in hushed conversations, offering them a gentle nod of acknowledgement without intruding on their privacy. Her attention, however, was soon drawn to an injured woman sitting nearby. Approaching Willem, who was closer to the woman, Eden inquired in a subdued tone, careful not to disrupt the quietude of the tent. "Do you want me to attend to her?" Looking over her wounds, Will was surprised that she wasn't showing more indications of discomfort or pain. He certainly couldn't have been so stoic in the face of such. I already read that. A lie, she says through a mouthful of root. She nods respectfully to both Will and the new woman. Meanwhile, Skinny is in here, axe in one hand, tunic bloodied from chest to feet. Skinny stumbles in the tent in a haze, duty alone driving him. "As I live, point me towards the wounded." "Okay." "Will, I truly appreciate your help." She smiled softly. "This is Eden, and I apologize for leaving you to handle things on your own for a while." Eden expressed with a gentle sigh, her eyes fixed on the severe wound marring the woman's back. "How I wish we had the aid of a healer with magical abilities. Unfortunately, it looks like we'll need to rely on the more traditional methods of needle and thread for this one. It's certainly not beyond repair, though. Please, Alai, try to remain as still as possible while I attend to your injury." Positioning herself carefully behind the injured woman, Eden prepared to start the delicate task at hand. With a steady hand and a calm demeanor, she began disinfecting the wound, ensuring that every step was done with the most care to prevent further discomfort. Once the area was clean, she skillfully started stitching the wound closed, focusing intently on her task, trying to minimize the pain while efficiently closing the wound with the best of her skill and expertise. Alai sits still as requested. She inspects Eden's movements as she works. Alai seemed to be almost comfortable as needles pierce her skin. Seeing Skinny, she smiles, a bit of the root making an appearance behind her teeth. "You! I saw you on the field. Your magics," she takes a breath, "wonders. Not like others I've seen. Come sit beside me. Tell me your name, healer." Skinny, pulse thrumming in his eyes, obscuring vision to a pinprick. Alai's words come in as echoes mixed with confusion. "No, not me. My wounds are closed. People dying." Skinny's eyes dart to the floor, looking for blood. "What?" A breath of focus, a fleeting prayer. Only strength for this moment. His eyes meet the warrior. "I'm sorry, I didn't understand. What is this guy having what's up with this guy? He seems a little incoherent." Alai stands abruptly, interrupting Eden's work. Her brows furrow with concern, and she approaches Skinny. She inspects his eyes and his breathing. "Eden, Willem, tend to him." She grabs his axe and sets it aside. If Skinny allows it, she helps him sit. He continues to fight. He needs to rest. She looks to Eden and Willem. "I have strength enough. Rogues will die if I do nothing." As Eden glanced up at the peculiar man who had just entered the tent, she was in the midst of securing the last stitches on Alai's wound. Her hands moved with precision, even though her focus was wavering under the weight of exhaustion. The spell she had cast earlier had drained her significantly, and while Willem's jerky had provided a brief respite, it was not enough to fully counteract her depleted state. She completed the task of patching up the warrior woman just as Alai prepared to stand. "It's finished, but please be cautious and avoid strenuous activities for the next few days. Any excessive strain could cause the wound to reopen," she advised Alai with a hint of concern in her voice before rising to her feet. As she stood, a wave of dizziness washed over her. Eden's about to fall out too, momentarily blurring her vision and nearly causing her to lose her balance. "I need to take a brief rest. Apologies," she stuttered, her voice faltering as she lowered herself to the ground, wiping away beads of sweat from her forehead. She could feel the heat of a fever, an uprising side effect considering the immense magical energy she had channeled during the recent events. Willem, if you could, please attend to the man, she requested in a faint voice, entrusting the care of the new arrival to Willem as she succumbed to the urgent need for rest. Skinny reaches under his tunic and grabs a bottle of plain olive oil, closing distance to Eden. He gasps, his hand. You will have strength, the unknown god demands it. He pops the bottle and puts a few drops on Eden's hands, feet, and forehead, and prays a verse and unwavering prayer. Unyielding sovereign, return her health and vigor. As they both kneel in the dust, what was once broken is made new. What was lacking is granted, and what was injured is made whole. I thought he was role playing, like that he was about to like pass out. He was freaking like delirious. His wounds, he was succumbing to wounds. There's a blessing that he had received in the middle of the fight wore off. I thought he was about to fall out, and Ally was, thought that too, I think. Ally watches intently, eyes narrowed at Skinny's powers. Can you continue? Remarkably, Skinny's magic proved to be quite effective in revitalizing her strength. Taking in a deep, steadying breath, she felt a renewed sense of energy. Sorry, I have to confess that I'm kind of frail, but your help has given me the boost I needed to keep going. She offered him a grateful smile before rising to her feet once more. It looks like it's time for me to make another round and see how the civilians are doing. Should you require my assistance, please don't hesitate to call on me. My name is Eden, by the way. She gave a respectful nod to the enigmatic man, then proceeded to attend to others who were still being brought into the temporary hospital. Will said if only Eden had eaten the whole jerky. Oh, you know what's funny? I thought the same thing. I thought the same exact thing earlier when she was like, despite the jerky, I'm still tired. I was like, well, you still got like a whole third of that John left. Like, you just finish that. You might be good. Will's food does revitalize. Yeah, this is what it's for. Yeah, but her metabolism is probably different since she's like a dragon. I don't know. She's human that can turn into dragon with magic, but maybe the magic makes it so that her stomach want to act new when it comes to the regular foods. But even a dragon might like your food, right? I don't know. I don't think it's magic. It's just that good. It's just that it's natural. It's just his skill. It's just kind of transcends to make it seem like it's magic. Like literally, there's some banging ass mashed potatoes. These are magic? No, it's just really, really good. Remarkably good. Skinny's eyes meet the warrior's eyes, unflinching. Will you guard me while I rest? My strength has failed, and I need yours. With hardly a nod, she hands Skinny's axe back to him. She grips his hand, looking him in the eyes before stepping outside for a moment. She whistles, and two men come running. Ally points at the ground outside of the tent, and they both nod. She walks back inside and speaks to Skinny. Rest now. She grabs a short stool and sits beside Skinny's cot. That's how you use your NPCs. Will says, I'm excited for the first time we kill a monster. And Will's like, all right, let's feast. Oh yeah, do we have any people that are able to, I'm sure you can, but that's a lot of preparing to do by yourself, depending on how big the monster is. But I'm sure, you can handle it. Zinhera, one of the makeshift stretchers, carries a young woman. Zinhera. What happened to her? I thought she got away. She hit that window too hard. She's like, why did I fly out that window head first? That was unnecessary. One of the makeshift stretchers carries a young woman named Zinhera. It's unclear how many saw her transformation before the artist consolidated his power, nor her escape through the window. When one of the able-bodied helpers found her, she was unconscious in a side street not far from the gates. The cobblestones scorched black. Ayanga overdid it and then burned herself out as usual. She seemed unhurt by any blade or weapon, but merely exhausted. As she's carried in, and the first of the medics checks for a pulse, There is the slightest static shock, and they jerk their hand back as she sits bolt upright. As she sits upright, eyes snapping open, and she puts a hand up as if shielding herself from danger. No, we left him behind. Oh, that's tight. Zinhara looks about confused for a moment and then collapses back onto the stretcher, hanging behind as the muscle aches seem to catch up and hit her all at once. She glances around at the other faces, trying to place people from earlier and recall what happened. Maybe 10 minutes later, after getting some water, she manages to get herself up and off the stretcher. Moving stiffly but ably, she seeks out the healer in charge and presents herself. Miss, I'm something of an herbalist and can assist with pulses and bone setting. I'd like to help. First, I must ask, have you seen among the wounded or dead a formidable man who wears a chain around his body? First, let me say that was cool how Zinhara said, no, we left him behind, implying that Zinhara, even though she relinquished control, she remembers she doesn't have full control. So she's pretty much co-piloting, and she kind of signified that she didn't want to leave Samuel behind like that. But Ianga wanted to get out of there to protect them both, which is cool. Alai spits on the floor, but she speaks softly as to not wake Skinny. I, the wolf. He brings his justice to the artist. She gives a smile to Zinhara. So he lives? She seemed relieved. He helped keep me safe. I would like to offer my thanks, but I think it can wait, as plenty here need assistance. Zinhara tries to get her bearings and sees some bandages she can soak in a solution of willow bark that she has been provided. She regards Alai and her first impression makes her respect and slightly fear the woman. I wasn't quite around for all the events, but I'm sure I'd remember you. I'd guess you saw combat recently. Alai replies, he lives. She does not elaborate further about Samuel. Yeah, my warband and I were outside of the gates as the artist brought about his ruin. Alai idly wipes away dirt and blood from her clothing. She studies Zinhara, watching her movements. She waits to make judgments for now. How did the wolf keep you safe? Meanwhile, Eden returned from attending to the injured civilians. She glanced around discreetly. What she says, can I just say that our nicknames for each character is... Y'all have nicknames for each other? Oh, like the wolf. Everyone is calling each other something based on what they say. Word. Wait, what are they calling you? Well, I heard the wolf. What other one? What were the other nicknames? She glances around discreetly, aiming to avoid drawing attention. During a brief respite, she revisited the two children who were separated from their parents, seeking to provide them comfort and uplifting their spirits. She harbored hopes that they would soon be reunited with their family. Ovaz takes Aso's outstretched hand, clasping it softly between both of his own. Well met, Aso. I am called Ovaz. It seems we are at a vital moment in the weave of destiny, as I feel many forces have drawn together here. I know not the meaning of these events nor the motives of the fiendish artist who has painted the skies with darkness, but once again, Ovaz is distracted by the appearance of another rogue as Oiji enters with the children in tow and calls out to him. Huh? Wait, this is... Okay. Will, however, jumps in to assist them just as Ash slips in, approaching Ovaz and offering to assist the wounded. I want some Wawa. I have a taste for like Skittles or something. Give me 1 second. Give me a moment while I order something. Bank of America predicts major housing market shift. Lots of people jumping back in time to catch up. Yeah, because he took it way back. I could have sworn he had a part after, like, since then. You did what after Thanksgiving? Then he says, I really like Alai's internal consistency towards how she treats mages. I thought she didn't like mages. She's treating Skinny like real nice. Oh, she likes healers? I thought she just didn't like magic. Well, she hates on mages who specialize in destruction. She says, destruction? No. Restoration? Yeah. And it's probably like a selfish, like, it's probably out of selfishness too. Like, you can keep me alive, you know what I mean? Oh, it comes up later? Bet. So let me ask you this, y'all. How much more role playing is there? Is there a lot more? This is a big thread, 78. Like, even outside of this thread, there's a ton. Word. I was gonna say, is it anything like, I missed Skinny's earlier RP. I think it's the biggest thread. The others are fairly quicker. Okay. The big pieces are the 4 heading out into the darkness. Yeah, I peeped that. So I don't read them because I knew I was gonna read it all at once. But I did glance at some, and I remember you added me. You were trying to see if you encountered anything, and I was getting ready to roll, but then I was like, whoa, what am I doing? Like, that's gonna be a perfect hook. Trial, heading into the darkness, hospital, rebuild. Oh, are these the major threads? Okay. Trial. Okay. That sounds interesting. That sounds like, okay. Well, it seems, what's her name? It seems like Alai is not taking it as bad as I thought she would. Right? But I guess that's a result of getting critical parried. It was like a critical threat de-escalation. Not a trial. It's not a trial. The fate of the artist. It ends with saying there should be a trial. I would say it's more like a listing of grievances before an execution. What? Who's allowing this? No way. It must be Nazareth. Is it Nazareth or Alai? Naz and his band, Alai with her allies, myself, seem to be a truce between Naz and... Oh, damn. And finally, you have Father Edmund and his lot. Yo, sounds juicy. I'm definitely going to rate it. Kind of politely. And what? What does that mean? Denise, are you Ash Schultz? I have this one picture of Ash Schultz. Okay. Who's your character, Denise? Denise? Oh, yeah, you're Denise. Yeah, I saw your submit. I didn't read the submission yet, but I saw. But who's your character? It's Denise, right? Yeah. Yeah, I remember seeing a character in there. Have you gotten any role playing done? Will I see you in any of this? Or did you want your character introduced first? Because I'm going to introduce your character before the events, so you don't have to use your... you can be introduced far before an event. Okay, cool. It's only 3 o'clock? Let's go. Sorry, y'all. I'm ordering some food. I need to refuel. I'm going to be on here for a while, though. I want to get through these role plays so I can open up the events. The sooner those are made, the sooner we can, progress. All right. Let's see. Denise says... I co-opted some of the earlier storytelling and incorporated it into my backstory. Cool. Also left the wall of text in my character intro. Okay. Weiji is ultimately trying to amass power and allies before dealing with anything inside or outside the gates. Smart. Granted, I have personal goals in regards to gaining more personal power and skill, specifically in my ability to equip others. Weiji says a good connected backstory is always great. Yes. Denise says, I still want a bastard sword made out of the magic stuff. That magic stuff. But that weapon is definitely a lot longer than 1 foot. Weiji says, I'm pretty sure I can make that. I just wouldn't be able to make anything else that big at all. Will says Will's going to have to make himself a new staff, hoping he can find a really cool tree out in the darkness. Get everyone some interesting weapons. Weiji says, I want to study the materia and deepen my... What's that? And deepen my ability. What's the materia, Weiji? The materia and deepen my ability and skill. I'm hoping... Is that what those little orbs were? I'm hoping the night is something I can learn to manipulate further. The night? Become a magical version of the mutant forge. I would have to figure out a reason to leave the immediate area of the settlement to go deal with your character's problem. Ovaz takes Aso's outstretched hand, clasping it softly between both of his own. Oh yeah, he's interrupted. My. He briefly closes his eyes, tilting his head up and smiles brightly upward. And thanks to Lantier. As I was just saying, Despite the looming miasma, I sense a powerful drawing together here. And here we are, each of us looking to assist our fellow survivors in whatever ways we are able to. I tell you this. Hold up, turn that light down some. There we go. Matter of fact, alright. As I was saying, despite the looming miasma, I sense a powerful drawing here, and here we are, each of us looking to assist our fellow survivors in whatever ways we are able. I tell you this, if we continue to work together, we will overcome this curse. I am no healer nor quartermaster, so you will have to rely on Eden and Will for the logistics. As for myself, it is time for this old man to rest his bones. I shall sit for a time and call on the Bright One's embrace to comfort us all. With that, Ovaz will settle into a corner. Ooh, it looks like we get a prayer. Ovaz will settle into the corner and sit cross-legged in the dirt. Hold up, somebody's calling me. With that, Ovaz will settle in the corner, cross-legged in the dirt. Far gone are his days of presiding from on high over grand ceremonies for legions of faithful. He pulls a candle from within his robes, along with the golden chalice and kaleidoscope prism. He lights the small candle and places it within the chalice, upon which he lays the prism. He stares into the prism for a moment, following the flickering, dancing light. He begins to pray softly, his voice melodic and calming like a lullaby. Lantir, God of light, we call upon your grace to shield us from the darkness and the evil we must face. Wrap us in your loving arms and soothe our troubled minds. Fill us with your peace and joy and leave our woes behind. We trust in your enlightened will and your eternal power. We thank you for your blessings and your bright embrace this hour. As he prays, a soft golden glow begins to emanate from Ovaz's chest, slowly growing from the size of a small bead. The glow gradually fills the tent, making it look almost like a large lantern from outside. Eventually growing behind the tent to the walls of the settlement. The glow is bright gold, but it does not hurt the eyes to behold. All souls within the light feel an invitation to fold themselves into the loving embrace, offering a moment of succor and repose. Nothing is demanded in return. Will says Will's interest in leaving the settlement is built into his character. He wanders. Settlements aren't for him. I really don't want to get stuck in one place. I want Will to explore where his abilities are kind of moot. Yeah, for real. Materia, Oiji says, materia is just what I am calling yeah, so wait, Will, and if you decide to go the personal route, like when the submissions are open and you decide to, go in other places, you can do that, I think the hardest part for players is going to be trying to decide to get involved in a specific event or the freedom of doing anything else. You know what I mean? There's pros and cons to both. Oiji says, materia is just what I am calling magical essence. And I'm hoping people travel too. Because the more, we can open up the map more, we can roll more locations, which opens up, more places to settle in and more chat channels and new settings. Spread y'all out a little bit. Y'all don't all have to be in this one place. Oiji says, materia is just what I am calling magical essence. I figure the spell cast by the artist that cast the plane into night and darkness is not normal night or darkness and is magical in nature. Will says, I love how Will is like a healer now, but not actually at all. Also, damn, why is this? Hold on. Also, at this moment, with Ovaz is huge. I'm super interested in the ramifications. Ramifications of what? Then he says, regarding the logistical issues, will you be following historical precedent to outline the common issues present in a small settlement city during a siege? Bit out of order, sorry. Regarding the logistical issues, will you be following historical precedent to outline the common issues present in a small settlement / city during a siege? Historical precedent to outline the common issues. If whatever comes up and whatever grows to the top of things that should be outlined and prioritized, whatever's important, and I guess it depends on what people make important. Dysentery? Dysentery? Huh? Oof, that would suck. I'm sure we have someone who can purify water. We need to protect them at all costs. Will says, right, I don't want to go off the rails, but I don't know what there's a lot of interest in a death-riddled city for Will. Yeah, man. Yeah. Back to that, the topic of, the voices. That's definitely, that's cool. That's the thing. The basics of purifying. Okay. All right. Zinhera knows that Alai seems to be studying her and feels a little bit uncomfortable, but focuses on what she can do. There's a man with a wound that seems from a mace, his ribs and chest compressed. She seems rather familiar with rudimentary healing as she can apply the bandages and carry on a conversation with Alai at the same time. We were inside. That dark ritual happened so close. I wanted to get out. The mercenaries were trying to slaughter any that moved, and he stood between them and myself. It was very brave. She glances out of the corner of her eye at the warband leader. Your warband. Did you know of the threat and come to save us? Or did you come for some other reason? Before Zinhera can get an answer, the man she is treating starts to convulse, and she throws herself over him, pushing his head to the side as the seizure rides out. When it stops, she listens for a heartbeat, and worrying finds it sporadic and thready. Cursing, she brings a fist down to the chest once, twice, 3 times, and checks again. I need you, she says, and some may look to see who she's referring to. She jerks, and half of her face changes. Blue power tracing over her veins, and her hair turning white. There is a crackle of electricity in the air. She responds to herself, though the other voice is mocking and more gravelly. Forget it. I'm exhausted from keeping you safe. Let him die. Zinhera starts again with the compressions. Oh no, damn, she bounced. Zinhera starts again with the compressions with her right hand, while the left side of her, the change side, hangs limp. Yo, that sounds kind of crazy. What I'm picturing looks crazy. She's literally doing a half-ass job of resuscitating this person. The other half of her body is not participating. And I'm just imagining what that looks like. Please, Zinhera. Please. Zinhera tries, but hears nothing. The left side of her face scowls, and there is a brief struggle from within. Zinhera nods, and then the partial change spreads until her entire face is covered with the blue veins, and her hair goes completely white. She stretches in a languid fashion and places a hand over the man's chest. There's a crackling sound and a jolt as the man convulses. She waits, then does it again. Bending her head down, she hears the heartbeat. She hears the heartbeat and stands back, her debt paid. The new figure of the girl, now the elemental Ayanga, sees Alai as if for the first time and cracks a wicked grin. Big fan of your work. I had an excellent view of the battle from the skies. Forgive my host, she's rather a wet blanket. Your craft, the slaughter, a tad inefficient, but must have been enormous fun. Call me Ayanga. I'd shake your hand, but, well, she holds up her fingers as lightning crackles between them. She seems to want to sit back and enjoy the freedom. When Ovaz starts his litany, she rolls her eyes, the glow making her skin crawl. Lantier isn't my thing. I'm going back to sleep, and I am not coming back out for a good night. I'm not coming back out for a good while, Zinhera. Play nurse on your own. There's a flash, and Zinhera looks herself again. There's still a touch of smoke and the smell of ozone in the air, but she sighs and tries to shrug as Alai got a good look at her condition. Sorry, my friend doesn't have the best manners. Eden, speaking of reading these, we were talking, I don't know if you were in here earlier, Zinhera, but we were talking about the voices for the characters. I don't want to run into a situation again where the character doesn't really match the voice that people were thinking. So I decided, and they all helped me decide, that I'm going to kick it back to the narrator and have him narrate everything. That way we have consistency. And even when I'm reading the voices, I don't want to I'm afraid that I might ruin them because I might not be reading them right in terms of like tone and stuff. So I'm glad you thought that was fine. I'm gonna try to. I want to get through all this role play, so forgive me if if I mess up or if I say some things in a way that they weren't meant to be said. Yeah, Eden settled on the ground, drawing the two children close. Oh, everybody's saying that. Is it really that much? I mean, this is the biggest thread though, right? Am I like halfway through this? At least it looks that way. Okay. Eden settled on the ground, drawing the two children close. One nestled into her lap and she wrapped her arms around him. And also, y'all, this is all going to be, I'm recording this and I'm going to release it. So if you missed anything, this is a good opportunity to catch up on the role play while we wait for submissions. So you'll be able to refer to this for anyone interested in the role playing. Eden nestled into her lap. She wrapped her arms around him, a gentle embrace, allowing his tears to soak her chest. With her other hand, she tenderly held the second child's hand. Internally, she mused, if they're now orphans, they'll need someone's care, and they're likely not alone in this. We should look for a place to bring together orphans and the displaced, perhaps forming a community, or maybe I could take them in. Under your wing, if I succeed in establishing myself as an herbalist or a bookseller here. Ooh, a bookseller. Let's see how things unfold. As she contemplated this, the distant prayers of Ovaz to Lantir, the god of light, reached her ears. Not particularly religious herself, Eden still welcomed the warmth that prayer brought to her heart. Feeling uplifted, the child in her embrace ceased his crying, and a smile naturally graced her face. Rising after a fall was part of life's cycle. Somewhat comforted, her attention shifted to the surrounding conversations. The woman she had just treated, the apparent leader of a gang, posed a concern for Eden. The town, seemingly devoid of authoritative governance and lacking external assistance, was ripe for power grabs. Ally, with her band of followers, could easily usurp control through force. Denise, is this what you were talking about, Denise? Additionally, Eden's the entirety of the Tower Settlement social works. Additionally, there was the warrior who had nearly ended her life, a disturbing element in the already precarious and such chaos. Every destabilizing presence was a formidable threat. I remember the letter that Eden eventually put on the door. And in the letter, she said that we should embrace Ally. That's a good point, Denise. I don't want to discourage people from not role-playing, but if it's something that you feel should be read, it's probably, I probably won't get to it, but definitely continue. Everything that's going to factor in the next events, I assure you, has already been posted. As Ovaz walks off to talk to another survivor, Aso takes the time to live in the cacophony, the mingling of voices, the groans and the coughs of the injured, the tapping of boots and feet on the ground. These people have seen much suffering in such a random, spontaneous burst of time, and in another timeline, maybe she could be amongst the buried bodies and bloodied victims too. Instead, she was here, much alive and breathing, with no evidence of a kerfuffle of any sort aside her blurry memories. Although far from religious, she finds comfort and solace in Ovaz's prayers and allows herself to be vulnerable for just a single second, eyes closed, thankful for another day. The next second, her eyes flicker open, and she walks over to a woman who appears to be slumped over a body, her veins radiating a brilliant shade of blue. For a moment, electricity crackling through the patient's chest. Then there is a flash of light, which makes Aso squint, and the woman looks normal again. How is she doing? She asks, crouched down beside her. I am no healer myself, but I know the basic stuff to get by, enough to keep wounds clean and away from the ick at least. Zinhara looks at Aso, glad that someone seems eager to help even after her unnatural display. But then again, this area seems rife with unusual people, or maybe they were the ones with the strength to survive. His chest, it has been crushed. His breathing is shallow. Is there any kind of frame he can be lashed to? If we keep his arms extended and shoulders back, it will give his lungs room to breathe. It's the best I can think of without magical intervention. Will says, I think the channels as locations provide strong settings. Then threads can both break out characters so they aren't running over each other. Yeah, and further break down a setting into specific places until they are established as important. Yeah. And Will, any other suggestions you have? Because I know you're far more experienced with facilitating a role-playing server than I am. Any suggestions that you have, I am all ears. Example channel, Market Square, Thread, Eden's Books. Yeah, I like that. Skinny awakes. Skinny's back awake. Skinny awakes, face in palms. The groans of the dying are too much. The willingness to help fades into doubt, fades into hopelessness, fades into selfishness, fades into impatience. Skinny knows the good, but lacks the discipline and self-control to continue doing it. The internal struggle is desperate, fierce, and violent. Giving everything for nothing in return hurts so much. The thoughts claw at his brain. Why should I lose my life for the justice of others? A mounting cowardice and desire for self-preservation attacks from all sides. Just once, can I avoid suffering and live in peace? Skinny curses his situation, unwilling to look circumspectly, unwilling to humble himself. For a moment he betrays his values. He hates goodness. His thoughts betray what slithers within. Skinny is going through it. Skinny looks around for an ally to square his debt to her for the night before. Even if I can't give any more, I can at least keep my promises, narrowing the scope of duty to conveniently fit his ability at the moment. Ally sits, allowing the light from Ovaz from Lantier to wash over her. But she does not accept the gift offered. She's unable. Her skin prickles. She feels unwell in the light of loving embrace. Her attention turns back to Zenhera and this new entity, Ayanga. She watches as the two struggle against each other, vying for power. Her head cocks back and forth, invested in the argument. She smiles and chuckles at Zenhera's comment on manners. There is a storm in you, she says. Her words are heavy with a mix of intrigue and disappointment. That's a question. The girl must decide between herself and the other. A balance? Ally shakes her head and pretends to weigh two opposing forces in her outstretched palms. A liability. Ally hands Skinny his axe back, helping him sit upright. She stands and takes his head in her hands and plants a surprisingly gentle kiss on his forehead, if he allows it. You earned your rest, Skinny. Keep your promise. All I ask in return. She glares directly into his eyes. When I call on you, answer. And with that, Ally takes her leave. Give me 1 second, I'll be back. My Skittles are here. Hey, real quick before I go, I just want to say I'm really enjoying this role playing. You guys are doing a great job, and I can't wait to get to the rest. I'll be back. I love the singer, and the moon, and the June, or the springer. Is there a concern that the threads within locations that people in the same place can easily miss what's going on literally a few feet away? Will says, I don't think it's a concern. I'll go back to my previous comment on the coffee shop and my recommendation about tagging those. WB? What? The chaotic part of the hospital, did that happen yet? Did I get past it? Or it hasn't happened yet? I'm in the midst of it. All right. Well, okay. Well, we're going to do a contest, a poll of sorts. Not a contest, just a submission, where everybody submits a part of the settlement they want to become a channel, a room. Since, this settlement's going to be here for a while until we start discovering new places, we'll expand it for a bit. And the content and the submission will be along the lines of everybody submit a part that they want to exist, and we'll pick like the top 3. Yeah. Well, that's kind of what any moment we can get. We are definitely gonna build out lore The game hasn't even started yet. Like that opening was just the opening scene. We're gonna do a lot of different lore building, but we'll get to that. For we'll do like a submission where everybody submits and we'll pick like the top three. I think 3 more rooms. Let's open up 3 more rooms to kind of spread, so give people more room to, and then with use of threads, right? But when you're talking to different people, it'll help to have different rooms too, and definitely work and definitely try to make sure we utilize threads more. To your point, to keep the conversations together. I'm just finding out about threads, so I imagine as people become more familiar with them, we'll be able to start leveraging them better. Yeah, I imagine the tavern is a ruin. In my head, it didn't even have partially a roof because it's the miasma went through it. Gamma Haven style, GH style, is relating to Gamma Haven. It was another game that was like the beginning of this concept here. And there was a lot. We got into the thick of world building. Otherwise, I feel like the hospital is going to be number 1, and the tavern will be submitted despite the old game. Okay, so we'll by default have a hospital. Okay, like the main tent. Okay, so we'll have the hospital, the inner gates. That's just the inner gates is literally going to be a general area. Is what I imagine, just a general area inside of the tavern, inside of the tower settlement. So I'm going to add a hospital. I'm gonna do that now. And then the submission is going to be, we'll be choosing 3, the top three, yeah, to add 3 more channels related to this settlement. And we'll pull back on those because we don't want it to be too messy. Let me see, what was the format? Channel, market somewhere, and then the thread in the channel was the location. Yeah, so we'll think of places that exist within the tower settlement, the inner gates. All right, man. Thanks for hanging. All right, where did I leave off? She said, "Call me, or come when I call you." As lore gets established, will there be a collective place for it? Yeah, there's a collective place for it that I'm working on it. It could be so much better, but I think I'm satisfied with it. I'll open it back up, but it's where all the lore is kept currently. You can reach that on the website, peoplesanddragons.com. It's in the master plane section, and it takes you to it's called the Codex. All the lore is held and stored on World Anvil. It is currently updated with everything from the season premiere. There's a map of the world or region, and your characters will be there as well, because pretty soon I'm going to send everybody an invite link to the world where you'll be able to create a character profile, like a social media profile for your character, but it's for the campaign. And you can you can store information there, post like achievements and set comments and posts, like a post. It's pretty cool. That sits with where all the lore is. Oiji walked into the tent. He gave Ally the same sarcastic bow she had given him before. "I have business with you, friend. That artist, I have questions for the wretch. That artist, I've questions for the wretch." He paused and rushed to give Willem Toth the bucket of water, of resolve in his eyes. He gave a nod, a quick word. "It looks like there is more than enough help here," as he snapped back around to follow Ally. Zanera watches Ally and listens to her words and seems shocked by the gentle response to Skinny. She's impressive. After calming the children once more and ensuring they remain safely within the confines of the tent, Eden revitalized by Skinny's effective treatment and bolstered by Ovaz's heartfelt prayer, stood ready to resume her duty. She gazed across the sea of injured, wondering just how many more were in need of her care. The thought loomed over her that soon she might have to make the most difficult choices a healer ever faces, deciding who she could save and who must be left to the hands of fate. As she navigated through the rows of the wounded, her mind wrestled with the events that had led to this catastrophe. How did things escalate to this point? She questioned internally. She recalled the faint murmur she had overheard about someone known as the artist, though the information was vague and scattered. Such devastation, it must be the work of a dark sorcerer. If he's out there, alive, his testimony could be crucial, she thought, considering the possibilities. All the while, she offered compassionate smiles and soothing words to the injured lying before her. In her heart, she began the heart-wrenching process of evaluating who could realistically be saved with the limited resources at her disposal. Then, in an unexpected turn of events, Eden was pleasantly surprised by the arrival of much-needed supplies. A fresh stock of herbs, bandages, and other essential items. Could there be a governing body coordinating this relief effort? Overflowing with gratitude, she expressed her heartfelt thanks to the bearers of these supplies and requested them to convey her appreciation to their senders. This timely provision was a godsend, significantly enhancing her ability to tend to more people. Thus, with the help of anyone willing to lend a hand, she continued her healing efforts. She hoped to manage to see everyone at least once before nightfall. After that, she too would need to find a place to rest. The reappearance of Eden gives Zinhara another chance to demonstrate her usefulness, suddenly wanting to prove her. Okay, so Zinhara is inspired by a lie. Okay, I like where this is going. Suddenly wanting to prove herself in the only skill, and this is Zinhara too, mind you. Totally different person from Iongo. This is Zinhara's little arc, it seems. Wanting to prove herself in the only skill she really trusts. Prove herself in the only skill she really trusts around all this chaos. She works with a quiet confidence, arranging the supplies into both a stockroom as well as putting together some medical kits to either be on hand or carried by healers if they need to leave the field hospital. She seems most familiar with some of the powders and pastes, like ochre and myrrh, and makes sure there is ample water on standby. Her own medical satchel is quickly replenished, and she considers whether it's myrrh, thanks Denise, myrrh, and considers whether it's worth her finding time to look for Samuel. She feels compelled to find out more about her savior, as well as uncover more about their situation. Heading over to hand Eden some more supplies, she tries to figure out a way to introduce herself. I like how everybody's going along with what the current thread is. The current goal is to get some supplies, and then they're using this as a vehicle for character interactions. That's nice. That's nice. These people get it. These are pros. She says, hi, everyone seems to be looking to you here. I just want you to know that I know my way around most of this stuff, and I'm keen to help wherever I can. Are you doing okay? I don't think you've stopped all day. She's read the role play, so she knows that Eden's plight at the moment, maybe not anymore as of recently, because of the spell, because of the healing magic, but her plight was being exhausted. She has been working all day. Eden says, hello there. Eden greeted the woman who had recently joined her in tending to the wounded. The term assisting seemed too modest to describe her contributions. The woman clearly had a considerable understanding of healing, perhaps matching Eden's own expertise. Yes, I began helping the wounded right after the attack ended, and before I knew it, everyone was turning to me for help. And now here we are. To be honest, I'm not too fond of being in the spotlight like this, but it seems unavoidable at this point, doesn't it? With a graceful wave of her hand over her dress, she effortlessly removed the dark stains of dirt and blood, restoring its pristine condition thanks to a little magic. To be completely candid, I am utterly exhausted. I'm still on my feet solely due to the efforts of a couple of men who helped rejuvenate me, but I suspect I might just collapse once all of this is over. The display of magic was interesting to Zinhera, who found her mastery of it fascinating as a contrast to her own power that was discovered from her control a lot of the time. I hear you. The day has been beyond exhausting. I know how you feel, but I've watched how people are turning to you, and these supplies seem to have come with you in mind, so you're trusted. I don't think that spotlight is moving away from you at any time. She offered her hand. I'm Zinhera. I hail from the east originally. Been traveling for about a year now. If you need a break, just take it. If you wait for this to all be over, you could be waiting for weeks. But I want you to know that I sort of sense that there's a big change in the air. That darkness, the mix of the people here. Things could get pretty crazy. And there's some strong personalities around here that want to push events the way they want. You're going to be a powerful voice, an influencer. Zinhera shivers at the thought. Yo, Zinhera just laid it on. Like, she laid her worst fears on. Like, oh, you afraid of spotlight? Well, guess what? The spotlight's not going anywhere, and everybody's going to be relying on you. It's like, nah. Zinhera said influencers. Ugh. Word, not likely. Not likely. Very unlikely. Looks like we'll be down one hill or not. Who knows? Zinhera shivers at the thought. Glad no one's looking at me that way, and I don't envy you. But what you're doing here, the way people have been testing you or treating you, when it comes time to make a big decision, your opinion will have a lot of weight. In case you didn't know, I want you to sort of get ready for that. When it comes to keeping people like this safe, I have your back 100%. Now that's what she needed to hear. A faint smile tries to soften the blow of truth that the girl has offered to Eden. Truth? She hit her. She definitely hit her with a blow. I don't know if it was soft. Hopefully, let's see how Eden responds to that. I mean, you know, when you're the only healer in the party, that's kind of the truth. I mean, we have Skinny. What does Eden say? Eden let out a soft sigh in response to Zinhera's comments, feeling somewhat uneasy about being the center of attention. She was naturally more inclined to play a supportive role, quietly contributing from the sidelines. The hospital? She much preferred the solace of a good book over the company of even the most charming individual. Additionally, she harbored a concern that her true identity as a dragon, this thing I can transform into, I call it a dragon, and you can't know about that. What happens? I mean, do you start to do dragon things? You know, I wonder. Like, can she slip? I mean, it is a spell, right? She's only using the disguise self, cantrips. Like, she's mentally, it's draining her. I guess she has to step away every now and then, Will says, yeah, she said out of character that the dragon, or whatever it is a spell. It's not her true form. Yeah, man, it's interesting that she's so concerned about it since she's human with spells. But she's a witch angle makes more sense. Yeah, let me write that down. That's just as a problem for her as the sounds are for Will. Like, it's just something to think about. We have to find a reason to make her feel like the witch thing is real, since that's something that she brought up. We have to either make it so that there is a demographic of people who are against her type of, her type of magic. This might have to create a new entity. Yeah, we have to make hers might be a little different, or the people that are after her hate her specific thing that she has going on. Or I think a fun challenge to tackle would be to find a way to make it so that people don't like her, because attach her to some kind of history, something that happened in the past with people like her, that knows the type of magic she knows, something that you really wouldn't want people to know. That way we can loop the characters in and kind of stay on the road of trying to find a way to tie everyone together, and having the characters be more or less the only thing that really matters. If you can kind of sew that into them, adds another dynamic. Will says, I think it's more about each settlement. Yep. I imagine that the settlements are not close together. No, definitely. Our imagination fills in everything in between. It's just the next thing that matters in that direction, essentially. But there can be any amount of space in between. You got it. So from one to the next, culture could change drastically. Yeah, for sure. The settlement attacked by an evil wizard is going to hate magic more than the one saved by the guy who made it rain. Yep. Allies banned, possibly hates dark mages. Yeah, that's what it seems like. That's what I learned today. We might even see a shift in tower settlement as a result of the artist, despite all the people who stepped up. Yeah, because Father Edmund, if he keeps on talking the way he's talking, he's teeing up for an event to, for something to be related to something happening. He keeps saying everybody, it's a continual thing. Everybody's saying like, hey, it's crazy how we're all here. And then you got Father Edmund talking about, darkness, something's getting ready to happen and stuff. That's what I'm going to be thinking of when I'm rolling a dice. And if he keeps talking about it, it's more likely it's going to, start something. Did the rogues do enough to prevent that kind of stigma? Or are the citizens going to want the heads of every mage capable of such a spell just to be safe? There are a lot of bodies in this hospital. Do we even know how many casualties were caused by the ritual? True. What I hope was what should have been projected, if not, was that and it was pretty bad inside of the tavern, and it was pretty bad outside. The civilians were getting wrecked, and then even when Naz came, they were still getting wrecked. They were getting killed, but they were being killed. They were fighting back. They weren't running, so it was even more casualties because the mercenaries were still they're just probably on par because they were outnumbered, but there was a lot of casualties. And then the miasma was just, it claimed the people it needed to, in order to accomplish what it needed to accomplish. And there needed to be bloodshed. Yeah. The wind and the dead. She much preferred the solace of a good book over the company of even the most charming individual. Additionally, she harbored a concern that her true identity as a dragon, often misunderstood as malevolent, might bring trouble if revealed. She knew she had to navigate her situation. You could be right, but I'm really hoping the focus shifts to someone else soon, she replied, shaking Zinhara's hand with a gentle yet somewhat frail grip. Eden certainly didn't exude an aura of physical strength, appearing more delicate in stature. It's nice to meet you, Zinhara. I'm Eden. I've traveled a lot myself, so I can relate to some extent. She listened intently to Zinhara's words, then admitted with a hint of embarrassment, I actually find confrontations quite daunting, she acknowledged, feeling a bit self-conscious. Some might label me a coward, and I don't really see myself as a leader, but on a brighter note, despite my belief that order had collapsed here, someone managed to bring in supplies, so there might still be some form of leadership at work. I'm not sure, as I only just arrived before everything erupted. She offered a grateful smile to Zinhara. Meeting another sensible woman in this environment, particularly one that could potentially become a friend in time, was a refreshing change for Eden, especially after only encountering men aside from the band's leader. How about that? The only other woman is leading a bunch of warriors. She felt a sense of camaraderie with her. I appreciate your support, though I hope not to be too reliant on it. I'm looking forward to having more conversations with you once this crisis is over. With a nod of gratitude for her assistance and encouraging words, Eden returned to her duties, continuing to care for the wounded. Will said, food is definitely going to be the most pressing concern. Farmland is rarely inside the city walls, so it would nearly all be consumed by the darkness. R.I.P. Darren's Bakery. Likewise. See you around, Eden. Zinhara let her go and carried on organizing the supplies. She completely understood Eden's reticence to be counted as important. She certainly wouldn't have wanted the job, but she couldn't see that she had much choice. The number of people that had come along to help, to talk, or to provide aid like Ovaz elsewhere, people would be butting heads, trying to figure out who would make decisions, who would lead and who would follow, without trying, Eden had created this space, and it had universally that it was a place of sanctuary worth supporting. Zenhera smiled to herself. If she had to choose someone to wield power in this place, she'd rather it be someone who hadn't volunteered for the role. That's deep. So Zenhera's trying to push her into a direction of potentially, she is a proponent of character development for Eden. Skinny. The golden glow of Lantier's light and the gentle assurance of ally conquered the weakness seated deep in Skinny's heart. The time for selfishness is done. Back to work. Skinny hefts his axe and scans the room. Things are well managed here, and more hands will only get in the way. A warm smile crossed his face. The crow's feet adorning his eyes remember their welcome guest. Skinny leaves the tent in search of Darren Longswift. If this place is going to recover, then they will need fuel and wood. Oh man, I feel like I'm getting to near the end. I'm curious to know who's trying to get out the gates. Because I remember somebody asked me something about, it was something real specific. It was like, do we encounter monsters that have, yeah, I would say so, Denise. As time wore on, the influx of new patients to the makeshift hospital gradually subsided, giving Eden a momentary respite. Despite her best efforts, not everyone could be saved. The tragic reality of loss became evident as some succumbed to their severe injuries while others were left permanently maimed. Eden, mustering all her composure, managed to endure through the grim task of amputating what remained of a leg. Although she didn't often perform much drastic procedures, they were sometimes a necessary evil. She contemplated dedicating a decade or so to mastering healing magic, considering the potential benefits of such an endeavor. Finally, having attended to each patient at least once, Eden allowed herself a brief yet much needed power nap on the ground near her concentration is crazy to be holding this spell up. Near the children she had comforted earlier. The environment was far from ideal for the rest, with the pervasive smell of blood and dirt and the soft moans of the wounded filling the air. However, she wanted to remain accessible in case her help was needed again. Moreover, she was wary of accepting invitations to stay at a stranger's house. Several men had offered, but given her past experiences over the century-long life, she politely declined. Eventually, though, she knew she would need to find a temporary or permanent place to call home. Awakening from her nap, Eden revisited the wounded, distributing water and food to the needy. She expressed gratitude to Zenhera again if she was still around. Then sitting down, Eden pulled out a parchment, quill, and ink from her backpack to jot down her thoughts. A bit of magic keeping the quill ready to write. Throughout her life, Eden had read extensively on various subjects, including city governance and logistics. Word? Now she tried to recall snippets of information relevant to their current predicament. Uncertain about who was in charge, she believed it is crucial to gather information to pass on discreetly. She had no desire to assume a leadership role, but she needs to know who was in charge. What is this Eden doing? What is she up to? Is she up to something? Is it just me? Oh yeah, I read that note. This is before that? Okay. From her aerial view, Eden had observed the town, unsure of its exact population. She ventures a guess around 4,000 people. She noted this estimate. Beyond the town's walls, war and darkness had taken their toll. Likely the surrounding fields had been decimated. The impending threat of shortage and famine loomed over the town's inhabitants. She recalled details from a military logistics manual. A soldier typically required 2 to 3 pounds of bread and an equal amount of vegetables, fruits, and meat daily, but a soldier's consumption was more than that of an average civilian. She calculated about 1.5 pounds of grain per person per day. Her hope was that the town's warehouse and the granaries had withstood the onslaught. The town's survival hinged on availability and quantity of stored food. As her quill transferred these thoughts to paper, she pondered the logistics. The town might need roughly 40,000 pounds of grain weekly, plus equal amounts of other foodstuff. Such figures always astonished her. The complexities and nuances of logistics, often overlooked, were nonetheless critical to everyone's daily existence. Next, Eden turned her thoughts to the issue of water. She paused, reflecting on her view of the town from above while perched atop the tower in her golden dragon guise. Oh, she's in her dragon guise. I like that. Zanhara said, "To whom it may concern, get your shit together. Yours sincerely, a mysterious stranger who certainly knows what to do, won't do any of it themselves." She's up to something. And then she also said that she didn't trust a lie. But in the note, she said that we should trust a lie. So what is going on? If I'm not mistaken, that's what it said. Something along the lines of you should trust her. Next, Eden turned her thoughts to the issue of water. She paused, reflecting on her view of the town from above, which perched atop the tower in her golden guise. The town must have a water source, like a river or stream, as no settlement is established far from such a necessity. Yet, it was unclear whether the artist's spell had tainted or severed the town's water supply. Damn. The prospect was concerning. Without a reliable water source, the town might have to relocate. A perilous endeavor that could lead to many casualties. So earlier when I said I'm taking a note of is there food or resources, and what's that looking like? Is the water compromised? If the water's compromised, we might have to relocate. Damn. What do you think of that, y'all? All right. With a sigh, Eden recognized that the town's survival hinged on three critical elements: the water source, the granaries, and the warehouses. After completing her calculations, what are her abilities again? Is this her intelligence? Let me look at her character sheet, because she's probably really intelligent, which is what she's role playing right now. She's wise and helpful. She's motherly. Mothers do be thinking ahead of time. Wise. She's very wise. Curious. She's curious as hell about who the hell is gonna figure this shit out. She's quiet because all of this is inner monologue. I don't think she's talking to anybody right now. And she's helpful because she's helping me figure out a bunch of shit that needs to be figured out, or y'all are gonna have to relocate. Let me see. Intuition is her primary attribute. She's very intuitive. So she's average intelligence, but she's very intuitive. She's lived for a long time. Knowledge. She has knowledge. Eden is very knowledgeable in many fields, though she favors magic, dragons, and politics. This is all her bag. This is politics. How is she not how is she not going to be the leader? Zanhara is the most correct person right now. You dodge the spot, what? You are the spotlight. You're a golden dragon. We see you. It's like, nah, nobody knows. She has to keep that going. Zanhara says we might be able to stay if we can foray into the darkness and push it back, or scavenge it and be from beyond it and bring. Yes, that's exactly what this is. The darkness is the fog of war. You gotta go into it, and then it's a survival game. It's a survival game. Okay. With a sigh, Eden recognized that the town's survival hinged on After completing her calculations, she magically cleared the parchment and began to write anew. She implored the town's leaders to inspect the granaries, commandeer the merchant's food supply at a fair price, and establish daily. This is the note that Naz picked up and looked at and gave to his maid to read. And I think he said he was gonna come talk to Eden to see. I forget what he had. Does he ever come to the hospital? Or was he pump faking? She also suggested formally recognizing and rewarding allies. Wait a minute. Commandeer the food merchants for a fair price and establish a daily distribution of bread to the populace until the food crisis was resolved. She also suggested formally recognizing and rewarding allies warband, understanding the importance of maintaining good relations with such a formidable group. That's politics. Choosing to keep her identity hidden, Eden left her note unsigned. She then stood up, swiftly concocting an excuse that she needed to step away from the hospital for a brief period, and discreetly departed. Denise says, I don't see this getting implemented without pushback from the people, at least in a realistic manner. Yeah, we'll see how deep it gets. Eden, Zanhara says, Eden is like one of the founding fathers, just drafting stuff to establish a system of government. I feel a few hundred years later, she'll be the subject of a musical. Denise says the poor just had their security, family, and safety taken away. The local law enforcement that would be enforcing the seizure and redistribution would be vastly outnumbered by the populace and even the merchants private security. And I don't think someone who just lost their father or mother is going to be willing to give up their little store of food. The city may have a store of grain, however. There is unrest in the streets and fear. Choosing to keep her identity hidden, Eden left her note unsigned. She then stood up, swiftly concocting an excuse that she needed to step away from the hospital for a brief period, and discreetly departed. Having left her message at the tower under the disguise of an elderly woman, Eden came back to the makeshift field hospital, starting to dismiss those whose wounds were light and non-threatening. She came back telling people to get out. That's funny. Samuel Andrews, haven't seen him around. Walking through the street, Samuel Andrews is seen talking to anybody that he comes across. The conversations range in length, but they are always about the same thing: the trial that will be held for the actions of the artist. Dun, dun, dun. Damn, I'm hooked. I'm in. Where are you taking it, Sam? Hey, give it up to Sam. He tried to talk Ally out of it. She wasn't having it, though. Or was it Darren? No, it was Sam. It was Darren that tried to talk him out of it. Yeah, and Sam stopped her. That's what it was. It must have been hours since he began to haul the unconscious body of the convicted, requesting anybody and everybody to come forward as witnesses when the trial begins. Eventually, he comes across the makeshift field hospital and all the victims caused by the actions of the artist. Remembering his conversation with Skinny, he takes a breath before he attempts to bring unjust retribution upon the Cretan. Entering into the field hospital, Sam Andrews is no doubt greeted by the look of disdain from those within. Why? He was expecting this reaction, seeing as though he's carrying in their assailant. Oh, okay. Despite being bound in chains, Samuel knows that some believe him to be on the same side as the artist. Ooh, that's true. He's no fool after all. Where do y'all stand on this, y'all, in the chat? Give me a sneak peek of what's gonna happen, what y'all gonna submit. Nah, don't spoil anything. But I mean, unless you don't care, unless you already, unless it doesn't matter. But I imagine this is gonna come up. You'll be amazed if he lives to see it. Damn, is it like that? Is there another thread where is it going down? Are people trying to kill the artist? Oh, damn. I'm more curious now. If you're saying it's Nazareth, I'm more curious as to who was able to tell him to stop, because the artist is not dead. Well, I mean, I did. I did tell him, that's too much of a big plot point. It can't happen off screen. You know what I mean? But if you're expressing that's what you want done, then that definitely has to be an event. If not an event, he might do it out of his personal action, because you'll be able to choose doing whatever you want. Events are more specific to, events are going to be more non-related things, like, new shit, whether it's discoveries, travel, objects and stuff, people, places and things, new shit. Yeah. And of course, ones that are then tied to survival and roleplay. Game of Thrones was also dealing with a city that was many times larger than this one. We already have powers in place: the rogues, the merchants, and the city guard. With a stern look, he gazed around the room at each individual. As he does, the murmurs of the crowd died down as their attention turns to Samuel. In a low, booming voice, he says, "I am here to announce that a trial will take place in the town square for the crimes of the artist. I request that anyone with testimony be in attendance, ready to bear witness towards the actions of this criminal. Upon completion of the trial, justice and retribution for the actions against those present this day will be enacted in whatever way is deemed appropriate." As the last words escape his lips, his eyes shift to the artist. Anger and disgust are ablaze within his eyes, revealing to some of his hatred for his captain. Revealing hatred to his captain. Okay. Damn. Will's basic knowledge from a life of travel took a back seat to the more studied hands of Eden and Zanera as they worked through the wounded. His focus turned more toward his stew and ensuring the children were focused on something other than their missing parents. That kind of worry wouldn't help anyone. It's what I'd be doing even without the herbs in the tent. Willem shrugged off Eden's appreciation. It wasn't that he didn't appreciate the thought, but more that he didn't want to be thought of as someone who could be counted on. Damn. Willem don't want to be counted on either. They're like, I don't want the spotlight. How many times had he left the settlement only to return later and find it had been raided while he wasn't there? How many times had he parted ways with the caravan in the wild only to find bandits using the same cart to haul their ill-gotten goods? He wouldn't always be there, but he would always try to help when he could. Leaving Eli and Skinny to Eden's care and allowing Zinhara to take many of the individuals that he had little to offer in aid, Will was able to focus on and finish the stew in between help with patient intake and triage. Of course, he was also there to help lift, carry, and move anyone who couldn't get themselves to one of the mats that lined the floor. It was old Vance's prayer that brought the greatest surprise, though. More than the artist's miasma, more than Eden's hospital or Skinny's healing, a prayer that could silence the wails of the dead, give peace to the soul. In all his years, the spirit speaker had never encountered the like. It left an eerie silence. It left an eerie silence in its wake for the man, which might have been unsettling had he not recognized the cause and its source. Eventually, the tide of individuals slowed. There was a stillness to the tent as they began dismissing those who had fought and who had found healing in his stew, and those whose injuries were minor. There wasn't much more to do for the evening, but keep an eye on those who were beyond his skills. So Will left the children in care of Eden and whoever else might stay to aid in the tent, and he headed for the gate. Not all the injuries they'd seen had been from the tavern, and talk of a battle beyond the wall was more than a little concerning. Damn, I didn't even think of that. The people on the inside, they're so concerned about, you know, all the injuries, but they don't know much about what happened on the outside. That's a good point. He said, y'all heard about here, but you should have saw I heard about what happened outside. If the wall was damaged, what chaos might creep in as the lights dimmed in the settlement? And if the wall stood, what might stand between the wanderer and his next destination? Okay, so is he the one that starts the want to leave? Okay, Will wasn't the first. Sam says Will and I posted at the same time, but Will was first, but Will wasn't first. Though with or without a party, he'll leave. Right, gotcha. But Will occurred first, gotcha. Okay. Zinhara was grateful to Will and his ministrations to keep people fed. She was just thinking that she could take a break when Sam Andrews entered and made his proclamation. She could feel the anger and bitterness in the people around her, but she didn't care. She approached the chained man and took his hand, sighing in relief. It's good to see you again. You put yourself in much danger to keep me safe in there, and I thank you. I would be glad to give my testimony. Are you injured at all? Zinhara hopes that seeing her, she's a great testimony. Zinhara hopes that seeing her being friendly to Samuel helps dissipate a little hostility, that any of the goodwill she's earned among them rubs off. Ooh, that's smart. Sam Andrews looks down at Zinhara. His eyes show no sign of What? Wait. Sam looks down at Zinhara. His eyes show no sign of recognition for her as his mind becomes a whirlwind of memories trying to place Zinhara. Give it a moment. Because right now I'm like, no, what? Okay. Give it a moment, Sam says. All right. Trying to place Zinhara, nodding his head in response, he lightly squeezes her hand as a sign of, you're welcome. I can't stand by while criminals assault the defenseless. They put up quite the fight, but I've had worse. Focus your efforts on the others. Zinhara says, way to tell a girl that he didn't even notice her. Word. That was a stock thanks. That was a stock you're welcome. He had that ready for anybody. Will says, to be frank, he was pretty busy almost being murdered. Word. He almost got pushed into miasma. Oh man. That man was almost being murdered. He remembers. Samuel glances down at the Knicks. That's because the player had to go. We had to go rewind back to that part. Like, oh man. Samuel glances down at the nicks and bruises from the battle. Nothing he feels concerned about. All of which will heal before long. After looking at a particular bruise on his arm, An image comes to mind of a fist that he had stopped from striking someone. His eyes narrow. Wait, I remember you. In the tavern. I don't believe I caught your name though. I'm Zanera. She looks over the bruises, but sees there's little she needs to do for them. She leans back and cocks her head. Where do you get the shine? You must feel the weight of all those who want. Oh, where do you get the strength? You must feel the weight of all those who want the man. All that grief and anger. And you're willing to put yourself between a killer and his victims. What drives you to cling to this sense of honor? It's a good question. What does Sam say? First he says his name is Samuel. Samuel. He reveals in his response to Zanera's name. The question she then poses is not familiar to him. In fact, this is a question that Samuel has been asked on many occasions. Oh, surety. Okay. Surety. Where do you get the surety? Okay. Thank you. The question she then poses is not unfamiliar to him. In fact, this is a question that Samuel has been asked on many occasions. With his body becoming rigid like an immovable stone, he raises the volume of his voice so that everyone can hear him, not just Zanera. Oh shit. What's he about to say? He's about to yell at everybody like Ouija yelled at them two little kids. Stop crying! Samuel says, it all comes down to the fact that no single individual has the right to dictate who is guilty and who is innocent, nor should they have the right to choose their punishment. Any and all criminals should only receive their sentencing after being brought before a fair and honest trial. One that I fully intend on bringing this Cretan to, and if I have to, I will gladly take on everyone's ire, if it means that no one is being unjustly persecuted. Lowering his voice, he returns to having a singular conversation with Zanera. Anyway, that's the code I live by. My oath to justice. That's what guides my decisions and strengthens my resolve. We all need something to put our faith in after all. That's where I've put mine. Let me put a salute emoji next to that. That might be like speech of the day and shit. Where's my salute? Salute. There we go. Yeah. Will says Sam's the paladin's paladin. He should be played by Carl Urban. He is the law. Zanera listens, taking stock of the man and how he articulates his reasoning. She was glad he had the chance to let the people here know his stance. For many here might be the most ardent to see a swifter form of justice. Faith comes about when you're tested. When people tell you to bend or stand aside, but you refuse and cling to the idea that gave you direction. I respect that. I can't say I've ever found something so powerful in my life yet. I feel like helping people when they're at their weakest makes me whole. It soothes me, but I couldn't point to something so lofty as justice or good. I'm glad I don't have such decisions on my shoulders. Sam scans the room again, this time taking a closer look at all the individuals that Zanera has helped. You don't always need some lofty concept or idea to lead your way. If it soothes you to help people when they're at their weakest, then it sounds like you have found something to put your faith into. Samuel proceeds to pat Zanera on the shoulder. The world needs more people like you in it. If there were, maybe the world would need less people like me. That's the shit you say when you have the bad guy tied up next to you. Yeah, Judge Red, for real. Toasty toast. Sam came in right at the right time when there was like no traffic. He would have just erased his whole hardcoreness right there, and then would have been like, the dead agree. Can somebody send me a link to the thread of I guess they're trying to get out or approaching the gate or something? Oh, thanks. Is this the only thread left? Zanera said, I remember wanting to give both Sam and Eden's players a chance to articulate their choices or outlook, because it's so hard otherwise to roleplay it unless you have monologues going inside their head. Yeah, that's the best kind of role-playing. The role-playing that kind of like unlocks other people's role-playing. Will Tall says, if you already read everything in the tower, settlement. Yep. If you missed the thread where the artist was first captured. I don't remember that. Is that in the rebuilding effort? All right, I think I'm going to do all right, Zanera, thanks for hanging. The fate of the artist predates Samuel's. Entrance to the tent. All right, I'm gonna start at the top of the tower settlement inner gates. All right, already did that one. All right, pick up where I left off. Okay, after Ovas in the tower settlement inner gates after Will's and Eden's part. Ovas. After seeing the civilians safely out of the cellars, Ovas will take a moment to say his thanks to Lantier for the blessing of safety and for the eternal hope that held within the coming dawn. Actually, you know what? No, let me see that inner gates drawn. Well, no. Yeah, let's look at the fate of the artist. Yeah. Sam Andrews approaches Alai and her warband, undaunted by the hostile stares from the events moments ago. His face stern, without emotions, his hands white, knuckle gripping his chain. This man must be brought to justice for the crimes he has committed today. So I will be taking him into custody. Extending his hand towards the artist, his other hand firmly on his chin. I don't like this any more than you do, but it would seem that we have to tolerate each other for now. Man, I cannot wait to see what's going to happen. Like, does Ally, you know what I mean? Like, does she what happens? What's going to happen? They both just seem like immovable objects. Man. Contrasting Samuel's emotionless demeanor, Ally frenetically paces back and forth. She pauses, listening to Samuel's explanation before laughing uproariously. Justice! Custody! She laughs once more, her warband echoing her. This creature is no man? She gestures at the artist, spitting a mixture of saliva and blood at his feet. He does not deserve the air that fills his lungs, let alone justice. She emphasizes the final word, her speech overflowing with contempt. She stops pacing and approaches Samuel, getting into his personal space. I'm not known for tolerating fools. Her voice barely a whisper. I'm not known for tolerating fools. Her voice barely a whisper. Call for me when the artist's head needs removed, or when you see fit to grovel at my boots. Somebody put the eyes like, oh shit. I'm in the zone. Samuel looks up from Alai, looking over her warband. You don't tolerate fools? Then you may want to be careful around the company you keep. Oh, what? What? Did he just say that to Alai's face? In front of the warband? No. What? Oh, no. Samuel looks back at Alai, his determination and integrity etched onto his face. What does that say about the leader of fools? Flicking his wrist, Samuel's chain lashes what? Oh, what? He's like, this is what you used to do in school when you knew that the person ain't want to hit you because they ain't want to get suspended. Flicking his wrist past flicks his wrist. Samuel's chain lashes past Alai, striking the head. Striking the head of the artist. Damn, that's fucked up. And the head with a metal chain? Is that just me? Or is that fucked up? Word, he only got 1 HP left, then he said, making sure he's unconscious. Okay, he knocked him unconscious. Okay. You may be content with quick and decisive punishment, but I refuse to allow criminals to get off easy. Don't confuse my intentions for mercy. I have none for this thing. Okay, so he knocked him out. Okay, amidst the stunned silence, he heard the faint breathing of the artist, confirming that he was still alive. He had to check. Okay. Then he says, don't confuse my intentions for mercy. I have none for this thing. You may be content with quick and decisive punishment, but I refuse to allow criminals to get off easy. They will suffer for what they've done slowly and painfully. Now out of my way. Placing his right hand against Alai's right arm, Samuel pushes her to the side, intent on retrieving his bounty. Ooh. Will says Sam is making it sound like he's going to flay the artist. But what is his take on torture? Alai steps aside, allowing him to pass. She watches Samuel go, dragging the artist behind him. He is no man of law, she says to her warband, her smile growing. He is hungry, like us. The wolf may dress like a sheep. but he cannot hide his claws. Ooh! She whistles, and 2 men approach her. Follow him. Tell me how brutal the man of justice can become. So here I'm imagining a few things here. One, she's saying that he's as brutal as he's fighting back the urge. Does that mean that she's falling for it, or is he really going to torture him? That's why she sent 2 men to follow him, I guess. Tell me how brutal this man can become. Skinny, pulling the bolt embedded in his chest from its home, unleashing a torrent of blood, hurls it at the ground toward Samuel Andrews' feet. We know good and evil, and my blood has been split in pursuit of justice and mercy. If you were taking the artist from here, where justice can be served for his evil, and he escapes, it is you that will have unleashed terror upon the world. Is Skinny against us? I can't imagine that a good rogue is taking that risk to follow a proper procedure. Is Skinny against this? Are you the ally of the artist? Do you have some more sinister intent? Or do you expect us to believe that his escape will have been an unforeseen accident? Ooh. No. Bring the magistrate here. What? Or my axe will do the work of justice. As Brother Augustus wrote, it is impossible for a rogue to love good without hating evil, and failing to do justly is as wicked as acting without mercy. Skinny falls to one knee and utters a prayer of healing. His wounds knit itself together. Yo, Skinny acting like a whole Elden Ring boss out here. He prayed and then healed his wounds. Skinny is against? I was not expecting that. Right. He's not with this though. What the artist did was crazy. There's a lot of things that were happening there. Skinny's like, You may want to keep reading. I don't think Skinny's play was communicating effectively. I'm pretty sure Nas's player and I both misunderstood at times. Okay, this shit sound pretty. This shit's like, wow. But he's definitely pulling the axe out though, right? Like that's pretty clear. I'll be curious to see where this goes. Where are we at? Okay. Raising his head with labored breaths. If you cannot summon the magistrate, then act as one yourself. We will all testify to the dire situation and the need for a special circumstance. Hold a trial and bring forth the witness. Hear and judge so that there are no questions of guilt or innocence. Wait, was Sam trying to take him out of the... I'm confused. So that there is no question of guilt or innocence. But if he is found guilty, I demand blood for blood, life for life, a seal of judgment, so that he may never be resurrected. Oh shit. Nothing less than the maximum, so that this evil will never be done again. Will says, it seems pretty clear to me. Skinny's stance is you can't run off with the artist. He should die here. Get a judge instead of trying to take him somewhere. Word. That's how mistakes happen. That's how people don't, they skate out on justice. He definitely accuses Sam of being a member of the artist's group though. Yeah. Sam is dragging the artist away from the tavern, and I think that's the contention. Yeah, that's definitely that's definitely most likely where Skinny's trying to hit on. And I think Sam is like, I'm just taking him with me where I go. He's safe with me. We'll figure out something. I don't know if he's planning on taking him out of town though. But the tavern is kind of like that boundary, right? Of course, he's not going to take him outside of the gates. But we don't need him getting lost somewhere in this settlement. We don't really know the size of it. But we don't need him to be anywhere but under all of our eyes in this jail somewhere. You walking around with him and shit. Like, is that what he's kind of going for? Okay. Nazareth, the God King. Oh, damn. Here we go. It's just about to get real. His appetite satiated after a meal, Nazareth leaves the pub. What's up, Skinny? Wait. Yeah. Nazareth leaves the pub. Another post that disregards the canon. Let's see. His appetite satiated after a meal, Nazareth leaves the pub, Drink in hand, walking down the street, he finds a town square with many irate townspeople, many of whom fought beside him the night before in uproar. So this, okay, so far so good. I'm assuming this is from his lens. An acolyte speaking on a platform to the masses tries to quell their anger with an explanation, but he's growing more. Okay, so this is like, his little version of, two boys that are lost. He's making up his little sightseeing in the settlement. Sightseeing is what this is so far. Growing more angry by the second. Please listen. The artist was only trying to help. Okay, little Thanos was right. Little vibe going on here. Okay. The impending doom of the terror beast was imminent, and they would have massacred us all. The artist only wanted you to have a death that was actually meant for something, you fools. That's dark. Nazareth calmly wades through the crowd until he reached the platform, then jumps up gracefully. Oh no. Oh no. It actually happens? I thought you were joking. Jumps up gracefully onto it, interrupting the act. I thought you were being like sarcastic. Jumps up. Oh, there's a platform. Did he say he jumps up gracefully? Oh no, there's a platform. Oh no. Jumps up gracefully onto it, interrupting the acolyte abruptly. Oh yeah, because he's trying to say that there was some cultist shit going on. Okay, I'll allow it. Maybe there was somebody within the mercenaries who were into the that kind of stuff, and he was kind of like co-conspirator. It's just like somebody that probably worships the sorcerer, the artist himself. The acolyte pulls the knife. Acolyte abruptly, you're the one of the demons who helped ruin the artist's plans. The acolyte pulls a knife and thrusts it forward. Nazareth grabs his forearm and takes a drink. After that, he looks into the acolyte's eyes intently and snaps his arm in half. The acolyte shrieks in pain as he falls to his knees in agony. Nazareth looked down on him. These people have the right to be angry. He looks towards the stunned crowd. I am Nazareth Lord. I am known by many names in other lands. Some call me the Calamity, the Leviathan Wraith. Others call me a demon in flesh, but you will know me as the God King. The battle last night was glorious. You fought with everything you had and triumphed. Nazareth raised his glass to this as the people began to spur. I will be your leader in the front line, a king that will make you all a powerful force so that you will never feel hopeless again. Every citizen under me will be taught the sword and be given the means to help in building this prosperous nation I envision. The crown can't help but be captivated by his words and excitement continuing to mount greatly. Let us start by taking the heads of those who wronged you. Nazareth looks down at the groveling acolyte and asks, where is the artist being held? The terrified acolyte looks into Nazareth's piercing eyes. The last I saw, he was being hauled away by the woman and her warband, then was taken by a man with chains after a squabble. Nazareth smiles. Your king thanks you. He kicks him off the platform into the frenzied crowd and quickly disappears beneath them. Take his anger, control it, and harness it into action. Take this anger and harness it into action. I'm looking for powerful vassals among you capable in a fight and fearless to join me. Create a council. Come together and present me the warriors. In a few days, the rest of you go into town and help with the relief efforts. We will rebuild this settlement and become the Phoenix itself. The crowd gave a collective hurrah as they broke into the groups to handle the task given. Oh, that's definitely gotta be an event where the location of the council where they are people who arrive to join his council, the congregation. Let me write that down. That's a call to action. Call to Nazareth Council. And I might roll some NPCs. Yeah, I might roll some NPCs for that. Let's see what we got here. Let me stop there. Yeah, I think a lot of that gets fixed when it's addressed, because in real life you would only do that if you knew for a fact you could get away with it and take over like this method. And I think if that continues, and then it kind of proves that it can be done. So these methods, if it could lead to a civil war or something, or if not addressed, and that is how those things solve themselves, right? Because if he's defeated, he's not going to try it again, or it'll be a while before he can do it and be successful. And we need those kind of players, right? We need those kind of antagonists. It'd be cool to have a character that constantly tries to take over, or maybe goes somewhere else and takes over there and then comes back for this. You know what I mean? And so far, what he's doing now is more so just he's massaging the influence of the people. These are all things with people. And this show of, and he's showing things in public to like an establish that with the people. Like, so there's always going to be a demographic of people that have seen and witnessed these things and are influenced by him, and he's using, and that can also seem overwhelming when something is being done in front of the people, like not at the dinner table, like, you know what I mean? But he's doing the stuff at the dinner table in front of these survivors, and how the players respond to that is the other component. It's the other component. Someone has to respond. They don't have to, but at the method that he's taking, you know, and being the first one to establish things, he's not fully invading or taking over something because there's nothing already there. So it seems it's very aggressive, but it's I mean, it's definitely antagonistic to an extent, right? He's not first, he's the loudest. Yeah, that's the approach that I'm getting here. That's what I'm seeing here too. Eden will establish a resource scarcity. Nazwa. Nah, that there's still I like the idea of there being, or eventually becoming, a resource scarcity. And then, you know, if y'all want to role play and solve your own role play plots, that's cool. You don't have to accept, you know, you can just say that the stuff that he offered saved a lot of time, you know what I mean? But you still have a need that has to be met, and just look at that as a contribution, so it doesn't ruin like what you were kind of going for. But nothing big plot related can really be tainted. I mean, if it does, I'm sure I'll see it. Let's see what he's doing here. Nazareth raises his glass and the people begins to swear, "I'll be your leader." Nazareth looks down at the groveling acolyte. Where is the artist being held? The terrified acolyte looks into Nazareth's piercing eyes. "The last I saw, he was being hauled away by the woman and her warband, then was taken by a man with chains after a squabble." Nazareth smiles. "Your king thanks you." He kicks him off, kicks him to the people. "Take his anger, control it. I'm looking for powerful vassals. Relief efforts will rebuild the settlement and become the phoenix itself." The crowd gave a collective hurrah as they broke into groups to handle the task given. Nazareth dismounts the platform and looks at what's left of the acolyte and spits on his remains. Weakness isn't tolerated in this world. He looks up and continues down the road to find. So there's a radical group of survivors, not as large as one may think, because that's all relevant to how many survivors survived in total. So this would be a subset of that group, are down for Nazareth's approach. So he's a representation of a small demographic of people who are going to believe what he wants to believe, is what it seems like he's establishing. I have yet to see Nazareth like actually speaking with someone like back and forth yet. This has all been kind of like between like scene changes to where you see the bad guy cut to the bad guy doing bad guy shenanigans. Is there a moment where he actually gets into the conversation with someone? Oh, word? Skinny and Naz? Naz and Ally? Oh, shit. I don't know. That whole Naz Ally thing felt bad to me. What? Oh, now I'm interested. What happened, dog? What am I in for? Oh, no. Is he on that? Is he on that? Looking for like a queen type shit? It makes me think that you're looking for a boo. What? I don't know who Yujiro is. As a long-time play-by-play player, it concerned me to see Ally going from long-form response to literally one-lining him. Yeah, we'll definitely have to. No, I haven't seen Baki, but we'll definitely have to take a look at that. Ensnaring the artist's unconscious body in his chain, Samuel Andrews lifts him off the ground, carrying him down the street. He looks around for the sheriff's office or a holding cell, unaware of those who were tailing him. Coming up to a building that he once known to carry out the law for Tower Settlement, a small office containing a single desk and a cage. Once it probably held the local thieves and ne'er-do-wells, but now has fallen into disrepair. Thinking that this will not do, it is then that he stopped by Skinny. Listening to the gentleman. What? How he know he was going to be stopped by Skinny? Thinking that this will not do, it is then that he is stopped by Skinny. Oh. Okay. He's responding to the post. Listening to the gentleman, he realized how he could come to such a conclusion, but he finds himself visibly disgusted nonetheless. You seem to be mistaken. I hold no allegiance to this Cretan, nor do I revel in this assault on those present. The crimes committed today are reprehensible. Lives were endangered, property destroyed, and our very safety has been jeopardized. As he speaks about safety, his gaze moves toward the darkness that now encircles the settlement. I cannot allow those actions to persist, nor can I bring myself to allow unlawful lynching of an unruly mob. Not without proper punishment, first at least. Samuel looks back to Skinny. I don't believe the magistrate can help us at this time, gesturing at the decrepit building beside him. I am not a judge, I am not a jury, and I am sure as hell not an executioner. But you are right, we must conduct the trial ourselves. Help me to gather witnessing in their testimony. It matter not to me whether it lives or dies, just that it receives the punishment it deserves. A punishment that will find agreeable. Whatever that turns out to be, I will ensure gets carried out. Without conviction etched on his face, you can see that this is a man of honor, one who holds this code in high regards, though you notice a darkness about him as he speaks about the artist, almost as if he does not view him as a person. Samuel, hunter of the convicted, at your service. Kind of like Groot. I know, man. Too good to be true, though. Anything that can be used for mythic, for like fate die, like the very likely, unlikely, just flat out. The one I have don't work anymore. About bots, Darren? About bots? Okay, right. All the more better if it can be like literally the mythic responses to kind of keep it streamlined as possible. Even just a yes and 50-50, no and. You know, you made one specifically for this, can't? I won't. It sounds too good to be true. At minimum, just yes, no. That's all you need. And even better, a super yes and a super no and a hell no. And, you know what I mean? Yeah. Samuel, I am Skinny, and I speak with the reason of ages long forgotten. Of what use is punishment? You said that you wished for suffering of the artist, but to what end? If we delight in suffering, his punishment is transactional. If we do not delight in punishment, then where is justice? Further, who speaks for the dead? Who were wronged? The life of rogues were taken. They cannot enjoy the artist's suffering. So what good is it to them? I do not delight in suffering. I simply desire retribution. Suffering is but a means to an end, so that they might experience the torments of their actions. I know that the past cannot be undone, as well as how no one will allow this man to live. I am no fool. Besides, outside the court of law, this thing's execution would be murder. And that is something I cannot allow to happen. Skinny says, a rogue can suffer infinitely, experience torments to no end, recover and wander on. Torment itself, the feeling of unhappiness, is not the desired end of retribution. If it was, what would we say of teachers or parents who cause unhappiness in children by resisting their wills and desires, imposing their own will that children may be molded to a useful shape, that they may not die meaningfully in this place? We would say they are bringing retribution and vengeance on those undeserved. Retribution is not meant for suffering, but is a balm. What the artist has done is evil, and all who hear of it will be infected, and those with twisted hearts may do the same. This evil, like a disease, multiplies until societies rot like gangrenous limb. Retribution is a salve, stopping the spread wherever it goes. But they put him to death will cause all rogues to fear, lest they suffer the same fate. And our society, which has suffered the inquiry of this evil, will have the wound no longer fester, but be cleaned. Not even a king has right to withhold proper retribution for this crime, and if he did, what then is law? If law doesn't not apply equally to all men, then law does not protect goodness and health and unity, but it protects those who do not stand under the law from those that do. This is merely might make right. And then what becomes of the weak, the bookish, or the infirmed? If a magistrate or ruler sought to pardon the artist without a trial, he would be no ruler, but a tyrant. If, however, we accomplished justice as he would accomplish justice, sparing not the guilty, we are his hand without title. And we can speak to the direness of the situation and the need for breach of protocol. His voice now shaking. If blood is required for the breach of protocol, let it be mine, because my eyes have seen no greater evil, and my life could be spent for no greater good. Skinny thinks about his aspirations of becoming a charcoal merchant, the hot bread of the bakery, the simple goodness of enjoying conversation with Darren Longswift, and the joy of building beauty from ashes. Nice. Here comes Naz. Samuel listens silently, his eyes a blaze of thought. So what are you saying? I should have just let them execute him? If that's the case, then what's to stop them from murdering you or me and calling it justified? That will cause general lawlessness and unrest, then no one will feel safe. I admit my pursuit of retribution may be flawed. That may be the guards I used to work with were right when they would tell me I was using excessive force, but that does not change my mind. He should be put on trial. That way there would be no one to dispute we did the right thing. His voice rises and breaks at times through his words. It is evident that something in Samuel broke, as if he has finally had a revelation that he needed. No blood will be spilt except the blood of those who have been indisputably proven. So you compare just capital punishment to children? Nazareth steps in to the conversation. This man kills hundreds while proudly brandishing his power for the entire town to see until his defeat. There is no question. He deserved to die at that very moment when beaten, and you denied a warrior her retribution and also justice for a settlement now in shambles, all for the sake of misplaced noble ethics. Nazareth looks toward Samuel with fierce fire in his eyes. I've had words with one of the artist's followers, and he himself all but admitted the grand scale of the attack. So this verbal sparring of ideology you're doing means nothing to me. The bad body warrior, Skinny, I think he meant to say dad body warrior, Skinny, is correct. And so are the people of this settlement. I merely wanted to see who custody he was under, and now I have. I warn you, relinquish the fiend so that he may receive a warrior's justice soon, or the next time we meet, and you're still protecting him. Ideals are the furthest thing from what you and I will be talking about. Samuel says, the only thing that stops wicked rogues from murdering others and calling it justified is a society. Oh, Skinny is saying this to Sam. Is calling it justified is a society of justice and peace, which takes away from them the desire to do evil, and good rogues willing to stand up to evil. The law only has effective power to restrain wicked rogues. If the law is just, justice is blind. If the law is just, justice is blind in respects to power of authority, and broken law demands swift and clear retribution on the guilty. And to Nazareth, for the sake of records, and since not all were able to witness the artist begin his rampage, and not all were able to confirm the artist's connection to this slaughter, hold a trial. Let those who live say their witness, and if possible, those who died affirm their killer. Let us discover why the artist did this, and leave without doubt that his hands are covered in blood. Nazareth looks over to Skinny with a disappointed stare. You were just saying how he needed to die for his crimes, and now you go against your own ideals? Dad body, does this man frighten you into his submission? Nazareth laughs loudly at this new development and folds his arms. I don't need to know his reasons. I don't care about records. All that matters is that he dies, and I will make sure that happens. Nazareth grins and snidely says, although you were free to help protect him from me alongside your new master, when the time comes, who knows, the two of you together could repel me with the most lethal of tongue lashing, using your exhilarating noble ethic speeches. He isn't changing his mind, just stating where he draws his line in the sand and showing that something in his past makes him draw such a line. Samuel stands in between Skinny and Nazareth, keeping Nazareth's focus on him. Leave him out of this. This isn't between you. This is between you and me. It was never the matter of the artist's death that Skinny was calling into question. If I am to understand correctly, he was calling into question my methods and logic. I see now that I may have lost my senses long ago, but I stand by what I originally wanted. This creature is going to be tried, whether you like it or not. And if the sentence is death, then you and the band leader from earlier can duke it out over who gets the pleasure. But for now, back off. You will be called when the trial takes place. Nazareth briefly looks past Samuel, back at Skinny, and barks, woof, woof. He then begins to clap mockingly towards Samuel. You stand tall for a man with a woman's resolve. I would command you, Paladin. One of the marks of true warrior is standing on your words, even when hope is at its darkest. And I can assure you that you are staring into an endless void at this very moment. Nazareth turns and walks away, grinning. The thought of them both attacking him together causes his bloodlust to surface, and he barely contains his excitement for battle. He stops briefly and turns his head back towards them. Regardless, I will be returning soon, making preparations to either hand him over or prove that you are ready to die from him. Damn, he told him to make preparations to hand him over or prove that you're ready to die for him. That sounds like something to think about. Trial, hand over. So there's definitely a trial that's going to happen, right? As soon as Nazareth makes his final turn, Skinny faints, head first into the dirt. A brief lapse. The strain of battle and blood loss finally caught up with him. Dragging himself to his feet, ears ringing, vision blurry, he says to Samuel Andrews, for the sake of everyone involved, seek justice at any cost. I must prevent further loss of life. Skinny in a haze wanders off, searching for the cries of the injured. Is that when he then enters the... Yeah. Samuel holds steadfast. Yeah. Samuel holds steadfast. Okay, so he was disoriented and just got up from fainting. Okay, that was the case then. Samuel holds steadfast, his face a stone wall. That is until he hears the thud from behind him. Turning his eyes, he sees Skinny rising to his feet. Speechless from the events that just transpired, he watches as Skinny walks off, not now knowing what he must do. Yo, people respect Skinny, yo. A lot of people survived outside because of Skinny. Real rap. Samuel begins going down the street, informing anyone who will listen about the trial for the artist, knowing full well that this might turn into a battle. Yes, he will be prepared. Ooh. Darren comes in to find the group dissipating as he arrives, the blood slowly being wiped from his hands onto the baker's apron tied at his waist. He sees Skinny slumped over and rushes to his side, begins to assess his wounds. This is the next day, his wounds, and pulls out crumpled up lemon tart. What? That is still warm from this morning, but definitely worn from the battles. Skinny, I thought your wounds had healed. Here, eat this. Darren is catching up on all the stuff from the previous night. He walks up to where Nazareth is walking away and says in an amicable manner, it seems your strength was a sight to behold during battle. When I see how you thrive in the heat of battle, it reminds me of a typhoon, which can eradicate all in its path, and you've earned my respect for that. Take care. He turns back to Samuel Andrews as well and continues. Trust me, part of me wants to watch you in this artist's life. However, Samuel Andrews is right. Once the trial is completed and the determination is made, we can hand him over to you and Eli. As much as we hate to see him sow such destruction. He may have a power he answers to, or he may have questions that we need answered. We will bring him to you once this has been decided. If he is to be put to death, I give you my word. Who is he talking to? He turns back to Samuel Andrews as well and continues. He walks up to where Nazareth God King is walking away and says in an amicable manner, I respect your strength. He turns back to Sam Andrews as well and continues. Trust me, part of me wants to watch you in this artist's life. So that's Naz, right? However, Samuel Andrews is right. Okay, once the trial is completed and determined and determination is made, we can hand him over to you and ally. Okay, like is he saying like if he's found guilty, we'll hand him over to you, or just even if he's found like not guilty? Nazareth stops briefly and turns to Darren Longsworth. You're the warrior with the axe that smells like pastries. You fought bravely beside me. I will contact you later. I wish to speak with you. He then suddenly glares, his face contorting into a sinister grimace. I advise you accept the summons. Then walks off. Eli says, what a curious settlement, where morale code is defined by bakers and wolves. Eli smiles. A chuckle runs through the warband behind her. She departs. After they both leave, Darren notices that he is shaking ever so slightly from a fear that his body is telling him not to neglect, and he watches the powerful individuals depart separately. He turns back to the artist and mutters, almost inaudibly, so much for a peaceful retirement. What in the plains have you gotten me into? I like that. Still carrying the artist's unconscious body, Samuel hears the words of Darren. This Cretan will pay dearly for the atrocities they have committed. I will personally see to that. I may not be a judge, but if you have to, I will oversee the trial. After all, I halted its unlawful execution. That makes it my responsibility now. If memory serves, you were also against the actions of the warband leader. Who are you? Oh yeah, Sam and Darren haven't really talked, right? And Darren never responded, Will. So that's the end of that thread. Somebody's trying to leave the gate, right? Nazareth in the aftermath looks around amidst the destruction caused by the multiple battles, and he thought all about the warriors he came across during the night. If he was going to start a kingdom from ground up, powerful enough to rival the gods themselves, he would need powerful vassals by his side to do it. But who among them is worthy? Nazareth falls to his ass crisscross-legged, with his head tilted, perplexed, pointer knuckle on his chin, thinking hard. The scared one that tucked tail and ran even turned into a full-winged beast to escape. Nazareth tilted his head back and laughed a bellow of a laugh, with tears at the cowardice, then quickly went back to thanking the mercenary, Darren Longsworth. He was brave indeed, but he didn't prove to have the stomach to help rule a pig farm, let alone the world. Should I test him? Should I kill him? I'm hungry. All right, I gotta call it here. I'll finish up on the rest of the role playing and figure out what the events are gonna be. I'm gonna finish this up, and then I'm going to finish up the thread, the rebuilding effort, because that leads into acquiring wood outside. Cool. Okay. All right, y'all. Yeah, I got to figure out the whole streaming thing. That shit's not working. And my virtual webcam, which is what I wanted to, which is what I usually use, so I could, have my setup visually. Hopefully I can figure what's going on with that. But all right, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to finish reading these, and then keep an eye out for not only the events opening up and the revealing of the events, but also a lore building contest for additional voice types of channels, whether it be voice for in character, all in character, but types of channels for that represent locations and have a function and purpose within the settlement. We're going to do a contest for that, and we're going to choose the top 3, and everybody's going to vote. All right, y'all. Thanks for hanging. Peace.